It was old Beethoven who cut his ear off, wasn't it?
Eh? No, it was Van Gogh.
More phone calls from the lost and found of free speech.
Outrageous opinion and controversial comment with the Dual Voltage Dream Team. The Michaels, Graham and Parry. He's back, is he?
Through the night, until dawn's early light.
The two Mikes, Parry and Graham, on Talk Sport.
Look at the light! You and your time obsession always kills off the programme.
Well, there's nothing to do with that. It's because you spent so much time slagging me off.
Some of the stuff that I read about him, made my blood curl, you know what I mean?
Blood curl?
Yeah, I'll tell you what, if I ever got caught by Genghis Khan in another life or something like
made
that...
your hair curl?
I'd fall under the hooves of a horse before I'd let him take me to the molten lead butty treatment, I tell you. You know what I mean?
This is Talk Sport. We are the two Mikes. It is Good Friday. And it's time to say a very good Friday good morning to Mr. Mike, a Porky Parry. Very good morning to you and a happy Easter.
Well, good morning to you, Mike. It is Good Friday, of course, so happy Good Friday. No, you said happy Easter.
No, I said it's Good Friday, and it's time to say a very good morning to Mike Porky Parry and happy Easter.
Well, I'm saying happy Good Friday to you.
You don't really say happy Good Friday,
Good Friday is one of the most revered days of the Christian calendar. Do you know that in all the years I've been alive on this planet, I've never
How many years is that?
That's irrelevant. I have never eaten meat on a Good Friday.
Have you not?
Never. Always fish for me on a Good Friday.
Well,
fish.
You always eat fish anywhere on a Friday.
No.
2 portions of fish and chips,
No.
table for one twice, and 28 pints of London Pride.
No.
Thank you, barkeep.
No, it's just fish. It's usually boiled haddock or boiled cod or something like that.
Boiled cod?
In its purity. No
Boiled.
chips. Yes, no chips.
Do you know what my mother used to make, which was horrendous? Fish and milk.
Fish and
Did you ever have
milk?
that?
Is it like and bread as well?
No, well, it was fish cooked basically in milk. It was the most disgusting thing I've ever had in my life.
I wouldn't have that. But I think anybody who pretends to be a Christian person, but eats meat.
Like you mean?
Yeah, like me. But eats meat on a Good Friday. Damnation awaits. That's what I believe.
That may well be so. I must admit, I haven't given it any thought because I haven't had anything meat or fish, obviously, since midnight. Because it's only now 1 in the morning.
Yeah.
Have you brought me an Easter egg this year?
No.
Why not?
Well, I just think that you're too fat already, and if you eat too many Easter eggs, you'll get fatter. You've got about 6 chins as it is.
That's very nice. Still 2 less than you.
I've got some health tips for you as we go through the show tonight, so I can help you with that.
So have you bought your fish already for later on then?
I have it where I'm going tomorrow.
Where are you going tomorrow?
It's going to be prepared on the coast.
German.
I should be on the coast.
A bit of herring, maybe?
No, I don't like that herring rolls. That herring roll stuff.
Who?
Herring roll. They do it in Scandinavia.
Roll mops.
Yeah, horrible, because they leave the skin on it and all that kind of stuff.
It's sort of in vinegar.
No, I'm not into that. Now, listen, there are issues which we have to address.
Many.
Johan Cruyff, born in 1947, died 2016.
There's that year again, yeah.
What?
1947.
1947, yeah, you're right, yeah, the word 47, the number 47. But I mean, quite an amazing guy. The trouble is, in our course of work, you come across people dying all the time, famous people, because you have to sort of report on them, you see what I mean?
Yes.
But it's very significant, the Johan Cruyff thing, because he was such an amazing guy. Well, he's probably one of the top 5 footballers that's ever been born.
Yeah.
And if you think about that, it's like almost saying a member of the Beatles has died.
Yeah.
You know,
well, funnily enough, I mean, the way some of the papers are portraying him, they're saying, Britain had the Beatles, Holland had Johan Cruyff, because he was almost that kind of a figure.
I think that's absolutely true. You know, when he played with Ajax, they won the European Cup 3 consecutive years. A fate only matched by Bayern Munich and one other team. I can't remember which
Real Madrid, maybe?
Real Madrid, of course, yes, in the early days. They won it 5 times on the run, you're absolutely right. And they say it was all down to Cruyff. When you think that Holland is such a tiny country, to have produced the number of incredibly outstanding footballers they've produced over the years is phenomenal. It's
and we're going to be talking to Mario Melchiot about that a little bit later on.
That's brilliant. You know, it's like Kenya produce all these great runners, don't they? Because some nations just have a gene within the people who are born within those nations to be good at something. And Johan Cruyff, I mean, and of course, all day we've all been watching the Cruyff turn. Because it was such a phenomenal piece of football, wasn't it? Nobody had ever thought of doing it before.
Yeah.
Everybody,
when I was playing football, everybody wanted to be able to do it, and we all managed to do it as well. By which point, the whole kind of surprise element of it had disappeared because you knew that somebody was going to do it.
But you'd break your ankle trying to do the Cruyff turn.
No,
I
used to be able to do it. I used to be able to do it. I was a very good footballer. I don't know why you say these things. Well, I keep challenging you to a penalty shootout.
Well, I could do the Cruyff turn.
I could do the Cruyff turn when I was playing football.
You're going to be telling me next that you can do the moonwalk, eh?
No, I wouldn't
Michael
tell you
Jackson
that.
moonwalk.
No, I couldn't do the moonwalk.
Because the moonwalk's more difficult than... not as difficult as doing the Cruyff turn.
No, the Cruyff turn was something that every kid learned how to do because they saw it and they went, wow, we've got to learn how to do that.
Yeah, well, they didn't learn how to do it.
But the point is, he came up with it. That's why
instinctive.
He was a genius.
It's instinctive. He said that. He said, I did it instinctively when I was about 11. He said, I kept it as one of my secret weapons all the time after that. But it's very sad that he's died. He's died at 68. He's died of cancer again.
Yeah.
How many people have died this year of cancer already? David Bowie, Johan Cruyff, two very giants of their own professions.
Lots of people have died of cancer.
And a lot of other people...
not necessarily just famous people.
No, I was about to say a lot of other people whose names we don't know because they are, ordinary people.
Now, I've got something bad to tell you, though, about the Johan Cruyff situation because I don't know whether you've seen the back page of The Guardian, which is hurriedly being changed even as we speak.
I cannot believe it.
Because The Guardian, who are a paper renowned for making mistakes, even though they're very holier than thou and high and mighty about how good they are at every single piece of journalism.
And jumping on other people who make mistakes.
Always pointing fingers at people who do things wrong.
Yes.
They've managed to put a picture of the wrong footballer on the back page. They've got Johan Cruyff, a sort of obituary-type piece, 1947 to 2016. Yeah. They actually used that line. Britain had the Beatles and the Stones. The Netherlands had Johan Cruyff. Yeah. And unfortunately for them, they've used a picture of Rob Ressenbrink.
It's just that it
who
beggars
wears
belief.
number 15.
It beggars belief. If there was yesterday a picture editor on The Guardian, I assume tomorrow he'll be unemployed.
I doubt it.
Or today he'll be unemployed.
I very much doubt it.
I mean, that just holds your paper up to instant mockery.
It does.
The whole world
and ridicule
of newspapers, which is based on comment is free but facts are sacred, it's not difficult to get right the picture of one of the greatest 5 footballers who ever played football in the history of the game.
And to know
it's
that
not difficult to get the right guy.
And to know that he wore number 14, not number 15.
Exactly,
which was the first clue. I mean, looking at this guy, there is a slight sort of facial resemblance, but I mean, once you look closer, you realise it's not him at all.
It's ridiculous.
Absolutely ludicrous.
Unbelievable. I mean, wonder who the night editor was on that paper.
Well, I think we should be told. Well, we can look forward to the corrections.
Or the chief sub,
We can look forward to the corrections section, I guess, maybe over the weekend and see whether they get it. But they'll be changing it, presumably.
Interesting newspaper, The Guardian, because it was run for years by a man called Rusbridger, right?
Yeah.
Who's now become chairman of the Scott Trust, which runs
which is the charitable trust, which runs
the group.
Yeah. But, which makes it tax-free, funnily enough.
Yeah, but over the previous couple of years, it's lost £60 million.
Yeah.
And
it doesn't make any money.
No. Most of that's been absorbed by the fact that they sold off some of their assets. They had
no, but they're also able to do it because it's a charitable trust. And people pay money into it.
Yeah, that's right.
Without expecting any back.
But they owned a bit of Auto Trader, didn't they? Which was very profitable.
Yeah.
They sold a bit of that. I think 100 million. Well, 60 million, that's already gone.
Yeah.
And the answer to that is, apart from it being very badly run, is that they seem to have employed nearly 200 people in both their overseas division and their new internet, like non-firewall type operation.
What, you mean the Guardian Online?
Yeah, that's right, yeah.
I know.
So it's all very well doing that, but what's going to happen when all the money runs out? That's what I ask.
Well, it won't run out. The point is, it won't run out because they don't have to worry, like the BBC, they don't have to worry about the sort of commercial
You can't
problems.
keep losing 60 million quid a year.
It's like a charity.
Where does who stumps up the 60 million?
Well, all sorts of different people. They have small contributors, they have large contributors. There are people who believe the Guardian as a force for good, and so it should be kept going at any cost.
Oh, I see.
It's a charitable trust. That's the whole point. That's why an awful lot of Fleet Street newspapers feel that it's a bit of an unfair situation.
Sorry, who thinks the Guardian is a force for good?
Well, there's loads of people in the world that think the Guardian is a force for good. Most of the people that you would not consort with.
Oh, I see. Okay.
Sort of liberal lefties.
Okay, well, we won't get into that. We'll get into politics today. It's Good Friday. Good Friday means peace, brethren, peace. And
does it?
Yeah, of course.
What about the crucifixion?
Well, that
wasn't very peaceful.
No, you have to remember that God gave us his son, Jesus Christ. He died on the cross that man might live forever.
Yeah, but what about the guys that actually did the crucifixion? That wasn't very peaceful, is my point.
Yeah, with the Romans.
Yeah.
Well, the Romans were into that, weren't they?
What, crucifying people?
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
A lot of them.
Yeah, they were.
You've never seen Spartacus?
That's why they were so successful.
Never seen Spartacus?
That's why they were so successful. Yes, I have seen Spartacus. Have you seen Spartacus?
Yes, I've
How
seen
does
Spartacus.
It end?
It ends with a woman driving along the road where Spartacus
is along the road?
Yeah, is hanging off a cross.
What, Fast and Furious, the Spartacus years?
No, she's on a cart, isn't she? She's driving along the road.
Well, I don't know, you tell me.
Yeah, and Spartacus is sort of in his last hours hanging on this cross.
Yeah.
And she stops and says hello, and then keeps going.
All right.
And that's it.
That's the end?
Yeah, that's the end of the story, yeah.
Okay.
But there you go. Now, the other thing that we're going to talk about at some stage of the show tonight is I was amazed when I saw this story emerging today that West Ham are now putting another 6,000 seats in their new stadium.
Yeah.
And
60,000 they're going to have, right?
60,000.
Well, they've done what everybody said they couldn't do, which was to sell out the season ticket.
I tell you what, that is one of the great...
You were one of those who doubted it, in fact.
I did. I say to you, I did. That is one of the great success stories in modern football.
Yeah.
Because what they've done is they've proved that if you get a brand new, shiny, spanking stadium...
Yes.
You actually do revive the interest in the club.
Well, I'm sure you do.
They would never, ever...
They also did sell cheaper tickets, didn't they? Which was another lesson learned.
That doesn't matter. If they'd have extended the bowling, their current ground, to 60,000, no way in the world would they have filled that for the first home game of next season. However, their new ground has captured the imagination
it has.
Of a vast number of football fans. They actually said that the subscriptions for season tickets were 5 times those they had available.
Yeah.
So they must have had about 200,000 applications.
Well, they must have had that. Well, that's not unusual. I mean, the Premier League is a very sought-after league, and it's a London club.
Incredibly successful.
Very successful.
Incredibly successful.
We'll talk some more about that.
Well done.
And much, much else besides. The Porky Quiz on King Alfred the Great tonight. This is Talk Sport.
The Two Mics, simulcast across the UK on Talk Sport and Talk Radio.
You recognise that, I'm sure.
Oh, The Long Good Friday.
Yeah.
That's one of my favourite ever films.
Yeah.
After Top Gun...
That's one of the few films you've seen.
Yeah, after Top Gun, Godfather 2, I would say that...
What about Godfather 4?
I'm not having that. You put that out as a tweet. You tried
no,
to
I didn't. You
to
said
mock
you'd
me.
seen it.
Oh, by the way, there's another issue that I've got to take you to task about as
I've
well.
got a great quote for you in a minute as well.
Okay, yeah. For a bit of a light moment tonight in just sort of bigging up tonight's show and all that, I said, the quiz night will be on Alfred the Great.
Yeah.
I said, I empathise with Alfred the Great. One of these days, I think I'll be known as Porky the Great.
Did you say that?
It was a light-hearted comment.
Yeah.
Guess what I got in response?
What did you get?
Hundreds of people saying, no, you'll be Porky the Plank.
Yeah,
and that's your
true.
fault.
Why
That
is
is
it
your
my
fault.
fault?
Because
I've introduced that word into the lexicon.
You introduced that word into the lexicon,
It's true.
and that is a damn disgrace.
Also, Porky the Plank has a certain amount of alliteration to it. It sounds better.
Yeah. Well,
how about this one from Becky? The Cruyff turn is almost as famous as the Porky back pedal. Porky, however, performs his daily.
That's a bit harsh. Very harsh. I've got some here from people saying things like about Good Friday.
Yeah.
What happened, Mike? You don't eat meat on a Good Friday. You had 4 Big Mac burgers just before midnight, did you? And all this kind of stuff. It's really not, it's not in the spirit of things. We're talking about a religious ceremony here. To a lot of people, Good Friday is just an excuse for a bladderation day.
Yeah.
Easter Sunday, bladderation day. Easter Monday...
What about Easter Saturday?
Post-bladderation day. Well, Easter Saturday's normal. That's the strange thing at Easter.
What do you mean?
Well, it's just a normal day. The shops have restrictions on a Good Friday, normal day Saturday.
The shops will all be open, though, won't they?
Restrictions on Sunday.
Someone was telling me today that they went to the supermarket.
And restrictions on Monday.
And it was jam-packed, rammed with people like at Christmas, as if they had to buy all this stuff. Because, suddenly nothing's going to be open over the weekend, which, of course, it is.
It's more...
I don't know why people have this mentality in this country. It's
more ridiculous than that. In a shop I was in yesterday, they were selling Easter trees.
Easter trees?
Easter trees.
Yeah. That's actually a European thing, isn't it?
I mean, what are we now trying to do? Trying to turn Easter into a sort of Christmas-type celebration so you spend more money. It says here...
What's wrong with an Easter tree?
Well, why would you have a tree at Easter?
Well, because it's in some cultures it's what they do. So
it's not in our culture. We don't.
It's a nice thing to have.
Well, I'm not interested in an Easter tree.
Well,
okay.
Don't have one then.
No, I won't have one.
Well, why do you want to attack other people if they want to have one?
Because I do not want the culture in which I live in to be suddenly corrupted by Easter trees. Okay.
Really?
I don't give a damn about an Easter tree.
Well, Christmas tree is not particularly.
If I see an Easter tree and I had an axe, I'd chop it down.
That's not very Christian of you.
Now then, Bill here says.
Who's Bill here?
Bill. In a tweet I'm looking at, so here I'm looking at Bill's tweet,
so
right?
Got Bill here then.
Did Spartacus toot the horn on his pimped up Roman car, Porky? No, you got it wrong, Bill. Unfortunately, Spartacus at the time wasn't able to access the horn because his palms were pinned to the horizontal bit of the cross.
What?
It was the woman. Well, they were.
Who, the driver? What was he driving a cross around for?
No, I said Spartacus was not able to access the horn on anybody's cart because his hands were pinned to the horizontal beam on the cross.
I think the point of the tweet is that there was no horn on the cart.
No, what I'm saying, it was the woman who drove past in the cart, wasn't it?
I don't know.
She was Spartacus's former girlfriend.
I'm not even sure I've seen Spartacus all the way through.
Oh, really?
No.
Oh, well, you see, you keep mocking me for not seeing films, and you haven't seen the film yourself.
Well, I may have seen it, but
one
so
of those famous films in the history of Hollywood.
Really?
You know, here's a question for you. Because I was thinking about this today. I thought it's Good Friday and all this kind of stuff, you know. Is Kirk Douglas was the star of that film?
He certainly was.
Is he dead?
Yes.
He's not.
Are you sure?
I'm sure.
No, I think Kirk Douglas
he's not. He's not. He's definitely not.
I think he died recently.
No, he didn't. If he died recently, we'd have remembered it and we'd have done something about it.
We're so good at remembering things.
Michael Douglas, of course,
he's certainly not dead.
Son. He's not dead. He's married to
Go on, who on?
Zeta-Jones.
Catherine
Zeta-Jones.
Yeah.
Although he looks a bit old these days, he's getting on for 70, I think.
You're right, Kirk Douglas is still alive.
Thank you. And how old is he? About 95 or something?
He was born in 1916.
1916, he's 100. Good God, that's incredible. That is
Well, he's actually technically 99. He's only going to be 100 in December.
Wow, that's absolutely incredible, isn't it?
Yeah.
Absolutely fantastic. Imagine that. Cool, blimey, I can't believe that. Because I remember him in some, like, cowboy films.
Yeah,
remember
like
him?
what?
Hey?
Like what?
Well, there was one. I can't remember the name of the film, but there's one.
Funnily enough.
What he did is he became a fugitive, so he stole a horse. But this wasn't in cowboy days. This was like modern. So he steals a horse. He was galloping off across like, Montana or something. You know what I mean?
Right.
And unfortunately, the horse gets like spooked or something, gallops onto a road, and he gets smashed up by a 40-wheel.
A woman on a cart.
No, an 80-ton lorry. And
Well, it could have been a cowboy film then, could it?
It was, because he was dressed like a cowboy galloping
what
around.
was an 80-ton lorry doing in the middle of it?
I said it wasn't in cowboy times, it was in modern times.
Right.
But he was a fugitive and he fled. I mean, in America, there's vast areas of America where, like, take the Rambo film, when old Rambo went off up into the hills and all that kind of stuff.
Right.
There's huge areas.
That was in Washington State, I think, wasn't it?
Yeah, it was, actually, yeah. There's huge areas of America where you can, like, live as a fugitive
Hobo.
for years. Yeah, live in a forest. In fact, an awful lot of Vietnam vets who came back from Vietnam couldn't assimilate back into society, and these huge communities of sort of loads of Vietnam vets who are completely bonkers, you know, been driven mad by, you know, the
PTSD.
Yeah, that's right, the fear of war and all that kind of stuff. They lived as, like, natives in woods.
Did you do stories on these guys?
Sorry?
Did you do any stories
I did,
on
actually.
these guys?
Yeah, I did.
Yeah, where were they then?
A lot of them were, again, over in Washington State. In fact, I went to Seattle once to do a story on that.
Did you?
Yeah, I did, yeah.
Did you live with them amongst them?
No, I didn't want to do that.
See, I can't imagine you getting along with people like that. I mean, I can't imagine you, first of all, finding them, unless somebody else had found them first.
Well, the funny thing is, you know, to find them, it was like looking for the Yeti. They would never come out into the open.
That's what
Seriously.
I mean, they're fugitives for a reason.
Yeah, well, they weren't fugitives. They were just sheltering from, like, society and all that kind of stuff.
Well, they didn't want to be found by the Daily Express.
No, they didn't. No, that's absolutely true. They didn't. But
I'd love to see a cutting of that.
Really?
Yeah.
I've got all my cuttings.
I'd love to see
I might be able to find
you
it
should
for
bring
you.
your cuttings book in one day.
Why?
Because I think people would find it interesting.
Yeah, I think they would, actually. Yeah, that's a good idea.
I'll bring mine in if you like.
Well, there's no point bringing yours in. You never went anywhere.
No, I went all over the place.
No, I mean,
don't forget, I was running my own business when you were still seeking the support of a big corporation.
In America,
I was feeding I was feeding stories to your lot because they were too thick to get them.
In America, certainly, you were widely travelled, but after that was it. You were a bit like American foreign policy. You only ever did it in America. The only other place you've ever been was Serbia, wasn't it? Of course, he's been sentenced today, isn't he?
I went to Bosnia.
Bosnia.
I went to the Middle East quite a few times. I went to Europe an awful lot.
Really?
Yeah, I did, yeah.
Yeah, I don't remember any of those.
No, you don't remember any of that because you were bladdered in Washington at the time.
Anyway, your old pal, you know, the war criminal, he's got 40 years,
He's
hasn't he?
not my pal.
Well, I think you got to speak to him, didn't you, sometimes?
Never did, no. You know, he was the guy that laid siege to Sarajevo.
Yeah, that's right.
And he was very, very much protected. You couldn't really get very close to him as a journalist.
Well, funny enough...
Any journalist that did get close to him didn't usually get out very quickly.
No, funny you should say that, but I saw a load of TV journalists tonight saying that he was actually very accessible in the early days of the war and all this kind of stuff. He put himself up as the great thinker and all that kind of stuff before they realised he was actually a monster.
Well, yeah, but after Srebrenica, which was where he massacred 8,000 people,
I know.
He wasn't very accessible at all.
No,
and that was when I was there. Because I was actually there waiting down near Vitez when the helicopters were supposed to be coming out, bringing all the refugees out of Srebrenica.
Yes.
And suddenly the first helicopter arrived and they said, we haven't got anybody to bring. They're all dead.
Shocking. That's
They're all
terrible.
dead. Absolutely horrific.
It is horrific indeed.
Now, do you want to know a few
yes.
Kirk Douglas films? See if you recognise any of them.
Right, go on.
Lonely Are the Brave. Remember that one?
Lonely Are the Brave.
Gunfight at the OK Corral.
Gunfight at the OK Corral, I remember
that one.
Yeah, I know who else was in that.
Tough Guys.
Tough Guys, yeah. Gunfight at the OK Corral starred Kirk Douglas and Jimmy, what's his name?
Jimmy what?
You
Stewart?
know. Yeah.
Jimmy Stewart?
No.
James Stewart?
No, the guy who
Jimmy
was...
who?
The father...
Jimmy Durante?
No, the father of Barbarella, actress.
Oh, what, Bridget Fonda?
Yeah. Henry
Jane
Fonda. Henry Fonda.
Henry Fonda.
Henry Fonda.
Not about Jimmy Fonda.
No, there's no Jimmy Fonda.
You said it was Jimmy somebody.
No.
He was also in the Heroes of Telemark.
Heroes of?
Telemark.
Where's that?
Remember that?
No.
That was a war film, wasn't it?
Where's Telemark supposed to be?
Was Telemark not supposed to be somewhere in Europe?
No, I don't
I
think
think
so.
it was. Ulysses he was in.
Ulysses.
He was in A Gunfight.
Oh, I'll tell you what he was in, and before you get to it.
Go on.
The Vikings.
He was in The Vikings.
Yeah, I remember that. It was fantastic.
Man Without a Star, which I think is a...
Star.
And, of course, the most famous one that we've all forgotten about.
Yeah.
Lust for Life.
Lust for Life? No, I've never heard of that.
When he played Vincent van Gogh. You haven't seen that?
Starry, starry night.
No, for God's sake. Or Vincent van Gogh.
Your palette silver grey.
No, blue and grey.
Blue and grey, that's right, yeah. No, I don't remember that one at all. I do remember The Do you brilliant film.
Was it?
Do you know who else was in it?
What was that about?
do you know who else was in it?
I don't know.
Tony Curtis.
Was he?
Yeah.
He looks just like a Viking, Tony Curtis.
Yeah, he does, yeah. And what happened was...
Have you seen The Time?
Yeah, they put Tony Curtis into a pit, right, and chained him into this pit.
Right.
And it's where the tide
That's
came
unusual
in.
because he spent most of his film standing on a box.
Yeah, and the tide would come in and drown him.
Right.
But then...
So it's a pretty small part then.
No, because a lustful woman went and rescued him, took his chains off and all that kind of stuff.
Okay.
But it was a violent film, no doubt about it. But it's a great film. I love Vikings.
Yeah?
Yeah, Vikings, brilliant. In fact, funny enough...
Look at the time.
Funny enough.
About the Vikings.
Because we're talking about Alfred the Great tonight.
Yeah.
He spent his life fighting Vikings.
Yeah, there you go.
Yeah,
well, there may be some questions about that. I haven't seen the questions yet, so I'm not sure. This is Talk Sport. We are the two mics.
The Form Zone on Talk Sport with Betfair. Listen to Talk Sport throughout the weekend for Betfair's experts' essential guide to all the latest form and odds as all the big teams face off. Everything you need to keep ahead of the game and make sure you know where the smart money is this weekend. Enter the Form Zone every weekend on Talk Sport with Betfair's partial cash out. Choose how much you want to cash out, lock in some profit and leave the rest of the bet to run. Selected bets only. Terms and conditions apply. Gambleaware.co.uk.
Repeat after me. I, Isabella Lopez, do solemnly swear.
I, Isabella Lopez, do solemnly swear.
Yes, to apply for the marriage allowance tax break.
To apply for the marriage allowance tax break.
And save up to £212 a year. If you're married or in a civil partnership and one of you earns less than £10,600 and the other pays basic rate tax, there is up to £212 of tax savings waiting for you to claim. It takes less than 10 minutes to apply at gov.uk/marriage allowance.
Fellow citizens, it's time to change. No more will you scrabble around in your pocket for coppers, fumbling at the front of the queue as people stare impatiently. It's time to free yourself, to stand up and say, yes, I am cash-free and I'm proud.
Skinny cappuccino, that's $2.59, please, sir.
Oh, right, sorry.
Discover an easier way to pay with Visa Contactless. Simply touch and pay for anything up to £30 at over 400,000 places across the UK.
Visa Contactless. It's the only change you need.
Get ready for Easter with George. We've got a whole range of children's clothes and toys featuring your favourite characters. There's Batman, Minions, Frozen and more, all for £5 and less. Shop in store at Asda or online at george.com to find your Easter fun.
Online delivery charges may apply. Selected stores and lines between the 24th and 31st of March, while stocks last.
Roll up, ladies and gentlemen, and prepare to be amazed and astounded by Colin Murray's Carnival of Curiosities, featuring a feast of fascinating facts and a farrago of fiendish falsehoods to untangle from the tantalising truths as Mr. Murray delights and astonishes you with his assortment of amicable acquaintances. Don't miss Fact or Fiction every Thursday morning from 10 on Talk Sport with Regain for Men Extra Strength Scalp Foam, scientifically proven to help stop and even reverse hereditary hair loss. Contains minoxidil. Always read the label.
The Two Mics, simulcast across the UK on Talk Sport and Talk Radio.
Push pineapple, shake the tree. I got do, push pineapple, grind coffee. To the left, to the right, jump up and down and to the knees. Come and dance every night, sing with a hula melody.
Why on earth are we playing this song? This is terrible.
You won't believe it.
This takes me back to all sorts of horrible children's parties.
No, you won't believe it. But eminent scientists at Oxford University have said that one way to make yourself feel better, to strengthen your mental well-being, to stimulate your concentration factors and all that, is to find a mate and dance in unison with him to novelty songs.
Oh, really?
Like Agadoo, or... I
can't stand all that stuff. I can't stand that. You see, I would say that is the last refuge of of those who wish to be led. People who like to be told what to do. Well, I think that's the problem.
I mean, did you ever go on a package holiday to Spain?
No.
No, well, you see, we did as a family when I was about sort of in my, very early teens, maybe 13 or something like that.
Well, that was when you started getting drunk, wasn't it?
Well, no, I'd had a bit of practice at getting drunk before then, but it's when I first sort of took an interest in winning.
But you told me when you were at the age of about 13 or 14, that was when you were able to go to a bar in Spain.
Yes, that's right.
And order a drink and get it.
Yeah, that's right.
Nobody bothered asking how old you were.
No, that's absolutely true. But what I always remember was, as soon as, in those days, believe it or not, the hotels had waiter service. Can you believe that? Now it's all self-service, obviously, and all kind of stuff. But a decent sort of 3 or 4 star hotel, waiter service. Now, the minute dinner was finished, they cleared the tables, right? And, and then it turned into the dance floor. Yeah. And then the band would strike up with... And then all these people who had seen Normal during the day all come onto the dance floor, started flapping their elbows around and singing, I mean, it was amazing.
I can't think of anything worse.
And that's,
I literally can't think of anything worse.
That to me is the enduring culture of a Spanish package holiday.
But did you join in at this point?
Well, I did, I suppose, but, I thought it was quite a bit of a laugh and a bit of good fun. Yeah. And the thing is, when I saw this... When I saw this report in one of my medical journals, right, I thought, I tell you what we'll do for a little video tonight. Right. What are you laughing at?
I'm laughing at the arrival of the new day.
Let's have a look.
The arrival of the new day, right, which has got some front page about...
List your 3 closest friends.
List your 3 closest friends. You see, that would be a tough one for you.
It would be very tough.
Because you haven't got 3 close friends.
I haven't got 3 closest friends. This is called the personal
listography,
yeah, personal listography of the day.
See, why don't you fill that in, right? Yeah. And then put it in an envelope and we'll put it in the pigeonhole. Yes. And we'll open it next week and see who you put down.
Yeah, all right then. OK, I'll do that. I'm just looking at their front page as well, a statement of the blinking obvious. Now, what I was going to say to you was, so when I saw this, it said that what you do is you dance, the other ones you can do it to is the Gangnam, right?
Gangnam Style.
Gangnam.
Oh, we'll have to have a listen to your version of that.
And another one which
Pyongyang Style.
Yeah, or something like that. Yeah. And the other one which I don't know too much, Macca It All Right Again. What does that mean?
I don't know that one.
Macca It All Right Again.
No, I don't know that one.
But
see, the abiding memory for me is not, we didn't ever take our kids on package holidays as such, but we would go because now in sort of 10 years ago it was all a bit different. Sure. But I mean, I remember going to various holidays with the kids, the older kids, and they would always have kids discos, and those songs would just play incessantly and over and over.
The other one is No Achy Breaky Heart. Right? Oh yeah, that was the one. But apparently, if you do this with a friend, a mate, or something like that, scientists say boogieing together to tunes like the Birdie Song, Agadoo, Macarena Gangnam Style, or Macarena Gangnam Style, or Achy Breaky Heart, releases endorphins.
Well, I think dancing generally does that.
Yeah, releases endorphins that can protect you against pain. The chemicals apparently also help increase mental and physical strength. And this, quite honestly, and I found this astonishing, was a research paper done by Oxford University psychologists.
Yeah. But, I mean, some of these studies that they do are bleeding obvious, to be honest. I mean, it doesn't matter what kind of dancing you do. I think, one of the reasons that, Strictly is such a success is people like watching dancing. Yeah, it gets them
I
into
think that's
dancing.
quite gifted to watch great dancers doing that.
Well, yeah, but to watch...
Not I've ever seen it, actually.
No, but we've never seen Strictly.
No, never.
Well, it's not just about great dancers.
It's a woman's programme, isn't it?
No, it's not a woman's programme.
I think it is.
I mean, your mate was on it, wasn't he?
Who?
Jeremy Vine.
Jeremy Vine was on it, definitely,
Well, he's not a great dancer, is he?
No, but he was an amateur dancer. What I like watching the professional dancers who make it look so easy.
No, but people like to watch the amateur dancers.
The only time
Darren Goff won it, didn't he?
Darren
Goff won it, didn't he?
Goffey won it, yeah. The only time I've seen it was when I found out that Jill Halfpenny, was it Moneypenny? What was her name?
Jill Halfpenny.
Jill
Halfbake?
No, don't be rude. Jill...
Who are you talking about?
I think her name was Halfpenny. She was a former Coronation Street actress.
Oh, well, I've never seen Coronation Street.
And I thought she was a very attractive young lady.
Really?
And I heard she was in the final because my mum told me. My mum said, I'm watching Strictly tonight. I was on the phone to my mum. I said, oh, yeah. I said, who's in that then?
See, that to me is another example of the way that you elongate everything, which is why we never have time to do anything.
What?
You say, my mum told me, I'm watching Strictly.
Yeah.
And then you go, I was on the phone to my mum.
Yeah, well, I was.
That's not necessary. That's information which we don't need.
Anyway, the point is...
What do you mean anyway? No, I'm trying to make a point here.
Yeah, but...
I'm trying to make a point.
You made the point.
Have I?
Don't elongate
What I'm saying is I don't need any, extra information which is outside of anybody's interest.
Anyway, the point is, I was going to say that when I saw this, I thought, right, you and I'll get together, do a bit of this dancing tonight, make a little video, and put it out to show our listeners.
Dancing?
Yeah, but then I thought you would look so bad.
I used to be a very good dancer, actually.
No, you'd look so bad.
I don't do much of it anymore.
You'd look so bad that we're not going to do it, okay?
You know that you are riddled.
We're not doing it.
You're riddled with envy about me, about the lifestyle that I've had, about the things that I can do that you can't do. Because, unfortunately, you are not the right shape to look good doing anything. You don't look good playing football. You don't look good running. You don't look good walking. You don't look good standing still.
All rubbish.
You don't look good dancing. There's no point to you.
No, you're talking rubbish. You're talking
not true.
Absolute nonsense.
Now, I've got a quote for you here from Johan Cruyff.
I'm very successful.
Yeah, I know you keep telling yourself that.
Yeah.
Now, you know what you say about winning, your quote about winning?
Yes.
Which is? Tell us.
It's obvious. If you're not winning, it's because you're not trying hard enough. Yeah.
Well, listen to Johan Cruyff's quote about winning.
Right.
Winning is just one day. A reputation can last a lifetime.
Yes.
To have your own style, to have people copy you, to admire you, that is the greatest gift.
Okay, yeah.
Isn't that great?
Yeah, very good.
Which means that actually winning is not what it's all about. It's the style in which you live your life.
Yeah, but it doesn't contradict my
well, it does, because what he's saying is winning is just for one day.
Yeah, but when you are the greatest footballer in the world, which he was during his era, you can say that. But, I mean, you say it with your tongue in your cheek because you know, actually, when I get onto a football field, nobody who's alive at the moment anywhere in the world can better me. So you can afford to be humble, can't you?
Yeah, but he probably didn't win every single football match that he played in, but he played in such a style that no matter whether he won or not, it didn't matter.
I bet he won about 95% of them.
Well, it may well be the case.
By the way, before the 1974 World Cup final, it was West Germany and Holland.
Yes, I remember that, yeah.
And remember, one of the reasons why they probably didn't win was he and all his mates went out on the razzle the night before the game. In fact, they spent about a week...
They had a very Dutch attitude to life, didn't they?
Absolutely. And they spent about a week, by the way, between the semi-final and the final.
There was quite a bit of spliff smoking going on as well, wasn't there?
Partying. Well, they were found on many occasions in hot tubs at the hotel with a variety of young ladies who were research assistants, you know?
Well, that famous picture that everybody puts out of Van Gaal and the guy from, what's his name, from Southampton, Koeman from Southampton.
Oh, yeah?
Standing with the two women who are painted in a football kit.
That's right,
That's from, that's a sort of similar kind of belief system, isn't it?
I don't think it's from that game, actually. But,
no, it's not from that game, but I'm saying...
That sort of attitude,
But the Dutch have always had that sort of attitude, haven't they?
No, I totally agree with you.
Now, do you mind if I read you out a few tweets? Because otherwise we're going to get very far behind here.
I think you should.
Here's one from Derek in Pencoed.
Derek in Pencoed?
Yeah, who says this.
The bog cleaner?
I think Porky should change his name to Talky Parry. Because he never shuts up.
Well, that's a bit harsh, isn't it?
And he says, Porky, it's always, what's your problem? He's always saying that to you. I'd say your problem is working with Porky, someone who thinks he's better than everybody else because he drives a Mercedes.
No, that's not true at all. I admire people who drive Aston Martins. That's why I'm determined to get one.
John from Durham. How's that going, by the way?
Oh, it's going well.
Okay. John from Durham says, excuse me, Porky, but have you not seen Heat, starring De Niro and Pacino? Best film ever.
No, I haven't.
Have you not seen Heat?
No.
That is a great
What's
film.
that about?
It's a sort of bank robbery story.
Oh, is it?
Yeah. But it's the only film that Robert De Niro and Al Pacino are actually in a scene together in.
Is that right?
Yeah.
That's amazing, though.
Because they're in Godfather 2, but they're not actually together.
Is that right?
Because De Niro plays the young Don Corleone, doesn't he?
Well, hang on. In Godfather 2?
In Godfather 2,
In Godfather 2, Al Pacino is Michael, who has just acceded to the top.
Who does Robert De Niro play?
Robert De Niro, I can't remember, actually.
You can't remember? Well, he plays the young... When they go flashing back to the early days of the Corleone family coming to America.
Oh, and you mean the slums they used to live in and taking the bulb out of the socket and all that kind of stuff?
And killing the guy from the Black Hand and all that.
That's right.
Well, he plays the young Don Corleone.
Okay, got it.
But him and Pacino are never in the same scene.
I've got it, okay, yeah. I understand that now, yeah.
Vic in Dagenham says, Tony Curtis was with Kirk in Spartacus as well as Vikings, and that woman was a great star, the beauty Jean Simmons.
Jean Simmons, thank you very much indeed.
Laurence Olivier, the great man himself, was in the film, and Mr. Graham should watch it in full. It is a great film.
Laurence Olivier was massively overrated.
What?
I thought he was bang average, Laurence Olivier. He was. He was, honestly...
Have you not seen Henry V?
Nobody gives a monkey's about Henry V, right?
Henry V is a great film. Both versions, actually. Kenneth Branagh, he did a fantastic Henry V.
Nobody cares about Henry V.
It's all about Agincourt, which you profess to be one of your favourite moments in history.
Yeah. Nobody gives monkeys about it. I'm telling you.
You're so uncouth.
Laurence Olivier.
I'm getting sick to death of your inability to understand culture.
Used to speak with plums in his mouth like he just had a dictionary for breakfast to try and make people think he was a great thespian and all this kind of stuff. In fact, he was a bang average actor who went around, conning people into thinking he was some kind of wizard of the stage and all that kind of nonsense.
Oh, yeah.
If he was any good, he'd have been James Bond, because James Bond started in the 60s and Laurence Olivier was supposed to be, the greatest living actor who'd ever been born and gone on stage.
Being James Bond.
No, he just was no good. He wasn't any good.
He was probably too old as well.
No, he wasn't. He was just too urbane and not able to shape the character that was needed to be James Bond.
Is that right?
He was hopeless, Olivier. In my view, he was he was overrated. And
I think that's a terrible thing to say.
No, it's not. It's not. You tell me one great film you saw Laurence Olivier in.
Well, The Marathon Man was fantastic, apart from everything else.
Yeah, but he was way beyond his best then and taking up bit parts to try and bolster a career that had been full of nothing. If he was any good, if he was really the great thespian, the great Lord Olivier,
this from a man who has
he'd
not
never
seen,
taken that role in Marathon Man.
This from a man who has not seen more than about 3 films all the way through.
He needed the money by the time Marathon Man came round, because nobody would employ him because he was limited in his ability to act.
Unlike you. Limited in your ability to see reason.
No.
Even speak sense.
No, I'm a better broadcaster than Laurence Olivier was an actor. I can tell you that for nothing.
Really?
Yes.
Well, thanks for I wouldn't pay you for that. This is Talk Sport.
Pyongyang.
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 I can never tire of hearing this, I have to say.
Is that the Gangnam?
Yeah, well, it's you doing the Pyongyang style.
Yeah, I know. And, it's all...
Do you know, a lot of people are starting to get very interested in our sort of little musical things. I mean, people are asking for, ringtones that they can download.
That's right.
Things that you say.
Well, haven't we got a compilation album?
Well, we haven't, no. We've got a playlist on Spotify that was put together by Ben, one of our followers on Twitter.
Okay.
Which about 100 people have now decided to link up to.
Oh, okay.
So, I don't know. I mean, maybe we should think about doing something for Christmas. Some kind of Christmassy sort of musical
I think so.
thing.
I think we must think about
it. We have to put our heads together on that.
See if we can get it going. I agree with you.
Now let's have a few more tweets, right?
Yeah, okay.
Here's one from Steve. He says, I think Porky's new mate Finn will benefit from history lessons tonight on the Porky Quiz.
Yes.
Gary says, Telemark is in Norway, you plank. The heavy water factory that we destroyed with the Norwegians against the Germans.
Is that right?
Well, that's, of course, why you wouldn't have wanted to mention it on this particular weekend, right?
Maybe
because
not.
you're going off to spend a lot of time in the beer cellar.
Yeah.
Lee says, my MG, I think you need to cut your losses asking Porky if he's seen the time. It just makes him waffle on much more.
No.
And David says, and I did know this, did you know a very young Pierce Brosnan had a small part as an IRA terrorist along Good Friday?
Well, he wasn't a terrorist. What he was he was the driver at the end. What happened was, in the only road in London where cars,
he was a terrorist,
where cars drive on the right,
Eh?
The approach road to the Savoy Hotel in London.
Yeah.
It's the only road in the United Kingdom where cars drive on the right because they have to drop off on that side and then come back down again. The taxis they drive on the right.
So people tend to get out on that side.
Yes, that's right. Absolutely. So anyway, so Bob Hoskins, is it Bob Hoskins? Yeah, comes out the hotel with Helen Mirren, who is his mole, and she is snatched. She's been waiting outside in his car.
Right.
But when she comes out, he suddenly discovers she's not in the car and the driver's not his driver. He's bundled into the car. The doors are locked.
What are you talking about? You completely lost me now.
No. And then the car drives off.
So who's driving the car?
This is the point. It should have been Bob Hoskins' driver, but while Bob Hoskins has been in the Savoy, rubbishing the Americans he was supposed to do the business deal with, but they pulled out because of his war with the IRA, right? He comes out. He'd give him
So isn't Pierce Brosnan in it as an IRA terrorist or not?
Well, I don't think so. Because
he is.
No, when Bob Hoskins eventually gets in the car, he hears the doors locked.
Yeah.
And then he realises it's not his driver.
He realises he's being driven to his death.
He's been driven to his death, and then he looks at the eyes of the driver in the mirror, and the eyes of the driver are those of Pierce Brosnan.
Are you sure?
Yes, he's only got a 30-second...
I'm being told that's not true by John, our film expert.
He's only got a 30-second role in the whole film, and that is driving away Bob Hoskins to his death at the end.
Well, I believe John Hearn rather than you.
Oh, really? And what is Mr. Hearn saying is his role?
Well, he's saying Brosnan is in the passenger seat and he's not driving the car.
Oh. Well, he still sees his eyes in the mirror, though.
He may well do.
There you go.
He says, no, you see the director's eyes. It's the directors of the film whose eyes are in it.
Yeah, but they're supposed to be Pierce Brosnan's. And Pierce Brosnan's in the front.
No, I think you're wrong.
And Bob Hoskins is in the back.
Yeah, you got it wrong.
I got it right.
Really?
Yes.
Now, let's look about your criticism of Laurence Olivier.
Okay.
In 1947, there's that year again,
yes.
He was appointed a Knight Bachelor.
Yeah, I know he was.
In 1970, he was given a life peerage.
I know.
He
don't know
was
why,
also,
though.
Given honours from foreign governments. He was
Why?
made Commander of the Order of the Dannebrog by the Danish government in 1949.
Why?
The French appointed him Officier Légion d'Honneur in 1953. The Italian government created him Grand Official, Order of Merit of the Italian Republic.
Yes.
And in 1971, he was granted the Order of the Yugoslav flag with a golden wreath.
And why did he get all these
because of his
awards
great
and
achievement.
honours?
He received 4 Academy Awards. That's 4 Oscars.
Yeah, what for? For which films?
An honorary award for Henry V.
Yeah.
Which was made in...
But, hey?
When was it made?
When was Henry V made? 1947?
Correct.
Oh, right. Okay.
Best Actor Award and won as producer for Hamlet, 1948.
Yeah.
And a second honorary award in 1979 to recognise his lifetime of contribution to the art of film.
Yeah, but you see...
He was also nominated for 9 other acting Oscars and 1 each for production and direction.
Yeah.
He's won 2 British Academy Film Awards, 5 Emmys, 3 Golden Globe Awards, and he was once nominated for a Tony for Archie Rice.
But none of those films were popular. Those films are all artistic films.
I see. So now you're saying he wasn't a popular actor.
Of course I'm saying that.
No, you were saying he wasn't any good.
He wasn't any good.
Well, why did he get all these awards?
Because, look, being a Shakespearean actor is so single-paced, one-paced.
Really? So you're saying he was one-dimensional?
Yeah, I am saying that.
So when he played the Nazi doctor in Marathon Man, that was not anything like a Shakespearean role.
But that was a minor role in a film dominated by Dustin Hoffman.
It was not a minor role.
Of course it was.
He was the star of the film.
No, rubbish. That's utter nonsense. No, I'm telling you. I know what I'm talking about.
You don't. You're
giving
talking
people
even
Oscars.
You're talking even more rubbish than you normally do.
Giving people Oscars for acting in Shakespearean films is nonsense, because a Shakespearean actor, all he has to do is basically read out the lines that the bard wrote for him. So that's no greater... I could do that. I could do that easy.
What? Well, maybe what we should do over the course of the next few weeks is have you do some Shakespearean acting.
I will do it.
We can have you doing Hamlet.
Oh, yeah, I could do it. I could do Macbeth. Out, damn spot. What is this I see in front of my eyes?
What is this I see in front of my eyes?
Yeah, exactly.
Brilliant.
Yeah. Don't worry about that.
Here's one from Craig.
Sound and fury signifying nothing.
Yeah.
What is life?
Yes. Well, that's a pretty good description of your general being, isn't it? I'm a better broadcaster than Olivier was, an actor, says Craig. What a plank. He surpassed himself with the stupidity stakes.
I don't think that's very fair. I don't think that's very fair.
Dee says, I'm getting disturbing visions of Porky halfway up the stairs screaming, I'm Spartacus, as he gives her the good news. I'm not sure which good news he's talking about.
That's a bit
Brad
harsh.
says, Porky sounds like a character from One Flew Over the Cuckoo's Nest, another classic he probably hasn't seen. Have you seen One Flew Over the Cuckoo's Nest?
I have.
Have you? How does that end?
I thought it was rubbish. How does that end? It ends with... I know how it ends.
Go on.
It ends with Jack Nicholson being lobotomised and turned into a moron.
Yeah.
No, a zombie.
Yeah.
A zombie.
Look, it happened to you without an operation. This is Talk
How
Sport.
could you possibly think that's funny? Stupid comment.
The Two Mics, simulcast across the UK on Talk Sport and Talk Radio.
Crazy, but that's how it goes. Millions of people living as hoes. Yeah, but maybe.
This is Talk Sport. We are the Two Mics. We've got Sandra Lee coming up a little bit later on in the show, of course, and it's the Porky Quiz tonight as well on Alfred the Great. A couple more tweets to read out to you. Here's one from Tracy. The best Kirk Douglas film I've seen was Billy Wilder's Ace in the Hole, a.k.a. The Big Carnival. It was about dubious newspaper reporter.
Oh, really?
Well, you might want to watch that one because that would be right up your street.
I think not.
Martin says this, Lonely Are the Brave is the film the Plank was talking about. Man Against Machine. Cowboys were a dying breed.
Oh, is that there? What was it called?
Man Against Machine.
What was the film called?
Sorry, Lonely Are the Brave.
Yeah, I thought it was.
Is that the one where the guy gets run over by a truck?
Yeah, that's right. He gallops onto the road on a very rainy night, you know, in a lonely part of Georgia or something like that, and bang, the truck smashes the horse to bits.
Well, so you've obviously seen that.
Oh, I've seen it, yeah.
Right.
I think Kirk Douglas survives. I think he gets knocked off the horse, but the horse is splattered all over the highway, you know what I mean?
Graham in Bath
sad.
says, Porky's lost the plot. MG is quite correct. Olivier was magnificent in Marathon Man. Porky seems argumentative tonight. It's not like him at all.
No. Well, it's Good Friday, and I feel that, my soul is being
How's your
cleansed,
arm, by the way?
Being cleansed.
How's
hey?
your arm?
It's getting a little bit better.
Oh, so
I'm delighted to say.
Again, you've recovered just in time for the weekend's activities and exertions.
You would hope so. You would hope so,
and
definitely.
Presumably you're still staying off the beer. So why do you have a non-alcoholic beer when you go to the beer keller?
No, I wouldn't do that.
I had a non-alcoholic beer in the new camp when I was there because it was all oversell. It was all overselling.
I can't see the point.
I was looking forward to it. I thought, great, I'm at a continental football match.
That's right, yeah.
El Clasico.
Have a beer.
And there was all these people lining up, and they've got these, it's a Spanish beer names all over the place.
Yes.
And I went up to get a couple of beers and realised they were all non-alcoholic.
I haven't had a drop of alcohol since Saturday.
Well, I think it's working for you.
Well, you know...
The weight's literally dropping off you.
I'm not sure about that.
Here's one from Steve.
Right.
Let's face it, Porky has overcome his illness and shoulder and no heart or brain. It's a medical miracle.
Yes.
# Ask Banner.
Well, it's not a medical miracle. It just so happens. Now, I tell you what I want to talk to you about.
Hang on, I've got another. We haven't got really much time, though.
Okay, well, please keep going.
Let me just keep reading these.
Yes, keep going.
David, you'll like this one. He says, good morning. I'm listening to you at 40,000 feet en route to the Maldives via Dubai.
No, you're
Sounds
joking.
great. He said Peter Crouch is on the flight.
Really?
Yeah.
That's fantastic. Well, we should send a message back saying, great to be hearing from you. Send our best.
Morse code or something? Why are you speaking so slowly?
Send our best.
He's listening to it.
To the Flying Lamppost.
What?
The Flying Lamppost.
Why are you calling him that?
Peter Crouch is known as the Flying Lamppost.
By whom?
By a section of football
I've
fans
never heard that before.
who've admired his talent over the years.
I've never heard that before.
And affectionately call him the Flying Lamppost.
Well, I've never heard him being called that at all.
Well, I have.
Matthew says, Mike Parry's brain is like a woman's handbag. Everything's in there, but he can't find anything he needs.
What?
# Plank.
Why this sudden attack on my character? I just don't understand
that.
Well,
because people are finally starting to see through you. Gary says this, Heat is actually about human relationships. The bank robbing is really just a subplot. Watch it again, you will see. Well, Gary, obviously, Gary, the thing is, I was explaining to Mike Parry what it was about. If I started to try and tell him the internecine bits of the plot that he wouldn't have understood, it would have been a ridiculous kind of car crash. So I just thought better to tell him it's a bank robber movie.
Who can say that, honestly? Who can say that? Now, what I was going to tell you about...
Well, you can't tell me about anything. We've got like 10 seconds.
Well, this is you see, you're dominating the show tonight.
I'm dominating. Do you really think that?
Yeah, I do.
Do you really think you haven't been able to get a word in?
Yeah, well, I'm not able to expand to our millions of listeners.
Yeah, you're expanding enough. This is Talk Sport. We are the two mics.
Hodgson has got the boys lined up, ready to lift the Euro Cup. He's determined to beat the Germans, and you can hear it right here on TalkSport.
It's too hot to handle.
Tomorrow night from 6, England travel to Berlin for an international friendly with Germany ahead of their Euro 2016 campaign. Hear full match commentary from Jim Proudfoot and Stan Collymore. Germany versus England. Tomorrow night from 6 on Talk Sport.
This is Talk Sport. We are the two mics. There's a couple of pieces of appreciation coming in for you, Mr. Parry,
Excellent.
which I should tell you about. One from Paul in Hockley,
yes.
Birmingham, of course. Well done, Mr. Parry, for having a go at the pompous, overrated Laurence Olivier.
Oh, right.
Shakespeare, he says.
Exactly. That's exactly the point
sure
I'm
what
making.
He means by that.
I mean, there's some great actors.
I think you're just encouraging, people not to appreciate the finer things in life.
No, I'm not appreciating that at all. What I'm saying is, just because you do a bit of Shakespeare doesn't mean you're a genius, and all this reverence for, a guy who got on stage and dressed up as Hamlet, so what? Millions of people have done that.
Well, millions haven't, actually, and certainly millions have not won such great accolades as he did. But anyway, let's talk about a man who has won great accolades today, and that is Johan Cruyff, probably, as you said, one of the top 5 best footballers of all time.
Oh, yeah.
If indeed not in the top 3. Let's talk to Mario Melchiot, who was very much inspired by him, a fellow Dutchman, former Ajax and Chelsea player, of course, as well. Mario, very good morning to you.
Yeah, good morning, guys.
Thanks very much indeed for joining us. I saw on Twitter earlier on that you put a little video out of the Cruyff turn, and you said that it kind of inspired you to play football.
Yeah, no, it wasn't like it inspired me to play football. It was more like the trick that he did. He was really known.
Oh, he's gone.
As a young kid, we practiced that a lot on the training ground. So when I had the opportunity, when it will come across in the games, I'll use it, and I've used it a number of times.
Right. And I mean, as a Dutchman, obviously, that period when Johan Cruyff was playing, they played with this incredible kind of expansive style. It was very liberating. It was kind of the new sort of football, wasn't it? I mean, is he still seen as the king of football in Holland?
Yeah, definitely. I mean, anything that comes from Johan Cruyff, people highly rate. I mean, he's done it over and over by giving influence to Ajax, Holland, and then he took it to Barcelona, and they still use some of his stuff. We have two of the guys. I mean, it's kind of strange to call him because now he's doing so. It's a difficult moment for him at Man United, but Louis van Gaal did extraordinarily well for both teams too, and them are the two probably the biggest influential guys of the Dutch football.
Yeah, it's absolutely true. Mario, apart from being one of the greatest ever footballers, he had an outstanding career as a coach, allowing Barcelona to win their first ever European Cup, and then 4 La Liga titles with them. But I always thought he retired too early from the coaching business. He seemed to have a burst of, great success at Barcelona. He went back to Holland, had a bit of success there, but then he kind of gave it up. Why was that? Why did he retire from football so early?
Yeah, I mean, people ask him that question a lot of times, even back home. People ask, like, why did you step down so early? And he was still trying to comment on the games, and people would ask him, like, why don't you come in and do the job?
Yeah.
And sometimes it would be questions, but away from that, I mean, we're talking about the legend. We know him about, the best and probably the most historical player that Holland ever had.
Oh, indeed.
And for him to have so much influence, even me as a child growing up,
yes.
I mean, we would play on the streets and call each other, Maradona, Johan Cruyff,
yes.
Pele. I mean, if you're in that bracket, that says enough about what you mean to the country and the nation.
Sure. Absolutely. I just wish we'd seen a bit more of him, if you see what I mean, in the coaching arena. But, of course, he had a lot of other things to do, didn't he? He wasn't just a footballer, a coach. He became like a celebrity in Holland of extraordinary proportions, didn't he?
Yeah, definitely, because he had his own column in the newspaper. Anytime he would come on TV, it would be like, a big show. It was more than just Johan Cruyff as a football player.
Sure.
People wanted more. They
That's
were
what I mean.
at him like, how you said, like an icon, He was like the most important person in the football history. And also because, guys, he played for 2 teams. They were big rivals. He was at Ajax and he was at Feyenoord.
Yeah.
There are not a lot of players who did that and did well at both teams.
Yeah.
So that is really what also, put a lot of following on him and a lot of respect it gave him.
Yes, well, he sort of created what is now Barcelona, didn't he? I mean, if it wasn't for him, Barcelona as it is now wouldn't exist, right?
Yeah, he had a big influence because he was the man about, he always said, if you keep the ball in the team, you're most likely to win the game. So there was always his philosophy. If we look at Barcelona, the way they play now, how many times you see Barcelona play and the main subject is keep the ball in the team? Because that's what we learned at Ajax too. That was our bread and butter,
That's
you
right.
Keep the ball in the team and don't try to lose it as quick or give it away cheaply because then you always be chasing the game instead of controlling it. He wanted to be in control about his life and about the game, so that was pretty interesting.
That's right. And the thing is, Mario, he set such incredibly high standards as a Dutch footballer, both at club level and internationally, that it's really been a burden, hasn't it, for Dutch football ever since he did step down as a footballer and a coach, because everybody now's looking for the Dutch Cruyff, the next Dutch Cruyff, and you're going to have to look an awful long way to find a guy of his sort of talent.
Yeah, definitely, because, people like him don't come along really often. I mean,
That's right.
If you look at guys like, okay, maybe Argentina is the lucky one because after Maradona you got Messi, but, and they had more great ones. But
yes.
There are not a lot of nations that can say, somebody followed up. I mean, you got what? I imagine George Best. How many George Best are we going to see now? You understand?
It's true.
So it is what it is. I mean, in France, Zidane. I haven't seen somebody that follow up in Zidane's footsteps. But that's the thing, Cruyff is special. Cruyff will always be special.
Oh, yes.
Will always be unique, always will influence football because even if somebody passed away, we will always go back to memories and always go back to history and always go back in his philosophy because that's how the Dutch football is so respected because people are watching us. They like the way we play.
Yes.
We're not a big nation, but we produce a lot of talent.
Yeah.
And at Ajax, we don't have the financial backing to compete with any different competition, especially the English competition. But we produce good talents because we spend a lot of time on the youth, and he was a big fan of that.
Yes,
and talking just finally, Mario, as I know you've got to go, the Cruyff turn.
Yeah.
I mean, did he ever talk about how he came up with that, or whether it was just something he did that in that one particular game, and then obviously did it some more after that? I mean, was it something that he had practiced, or did it just come to him in the middle of the game?
Yeah, because he was a very skinny player, so he couldn't really physically compete with a lot of people. So he always has to move around. So when you play at Ajax, they always tell you, if you stand still, you become vulnerable. So you always have to be in the move. So if you look at a lot of clips of him, he was always moving. He was rarely that you saw him standing still and waiting. I mean, the game has changed over the years, don't get me wrong. But when you chase him, he was always moving and chasing direction really quick. So me growing up as a young boy, I saw that trick and I've practiced it over and over. And luckily enough, the moment was probably really unique because the one that I posted on my Twitter account and then the one that I had in the FA Cup was in the same corner that I Cruyff, against Echio, and he pulled me and I went down, free kick, we scored a goal, we won the FA Cup. Right. But that's because if you practice a skill over and over and over from one of the greats that you see, and I highly influenced children, and I always say that, watch what you like and try to copy it and then make it your own because the moment will come. And I knew the moment when it comes, you're going to use it because it's just part of your life. Right. And Cruyff had a lot of those tricks. Outside the boot was also one of his secret movements.
Sure. Tremendous stuff. Mario, thank you very much indeed for taking the time to talk to us. Mario Melchiot there, played for Holland for 8 years, of course, played for Ajax, played for Chelsea, played for a whole host of other teams as well. The other thing that a couple of people have pointed out about Johan Cruyff is he used to have one of those great Citroen Maserati cars. Remember that car? Which was a very, very iconic sort of car in the 70s.
It was,
very unusual. Yeah. And only he could sort of carry it off. Lots more for us to do. More tweets and text to read out to you. And Sandra Lee coming up a little bit later on as well. This is TalkSport.
The Two Mics. Simulcast across the UK on TalkSport and Talk.
No.
I've been talking to a load of women, right?
Have you?
Who have...
What, within recent times?
Oh, well, yeah.
Well, there's certainly been a lot of pictures of you in braces with women,
hang on,
which we saw last weekend.
For research purposes. And can I tell you, for absolutely sure, this idea of modern man being touchy-feely and, cry, let your feelings out. Women hate men who cry.
That's not true.
Women hate men who cry.
That's not true.
It is absolutely true.
Rubbish.
It is absolutely true.
Rubbish. I mean, as ever, it's not a black and white issue, is it?
Of course it is.
It depends on what you're crying about.
Women...
If you're crying because, there isn't any milk in the fridge to make your tea with, or if you're crying because you've missed the next train to work, obviously they won't like that. Yeah. But I don't think most women would mind a guy crying over something which was deeply emotionally affecting.
I can tell you from research into the psychology of the male and the female...
Women. You have relationships with them.
Hang on, I can tell you that despite everything we say about the modern world, there is still the old, Stone Age caveman effect of man being strong and defending the home and being the provider and all that kind of stuff. And there is no room for a man to be crying in a woman's affections. No. Not whatsoever, in my view.
You're wrong about
I'd be prepared to throw that out to the audience. I'm telling you, most women are suspicious about a man who cries.
That's not true.
You start bursting into tears every time you feel a bit emotional and all that. That is seen by women as a sign of weakness.
Well, all right, so what's your argument then? Is your argument that if you burst into tears all the time, which I would agree with you is not a very good idea, but not to not cry at all? I mean, there's nothing wrong with a man crying if it's about something that he feels particularly deeply about.
Look,
but there is a big difference between crying for one particular reason over one particular thing, or crying, for no reason.
If a suddenly immense tragedy hits you, a personal thing and all that, then okay, you might cry.
So you'd allow that.
Tears your eye. But to cry over emotional problems with your relationship and all that. I mean, it says here, modern man is 3 times more likely to cry in public than their fathers were. More surprising is a statistic that the average man has sobbed in front of other people 14 times in his adult life, and that 4 out of 10 men admitted to crying in public within the last 12 months. It didn't stop there. In private, modern men cry even more, sobbing up to 30 times a year, with bouts lasting over 2 minutes. So I'm saying that's not one great trauma. I haven't suddenly been told, I'm sorry, your mum's died, or something like that, which is shocking. Of course, I wouldn't blame anybody for crying then. But
have you never cried?
No, I don't think I've ever cried.
But
no,
you haven't. You've got a heart of stone.
No. I'll tell you what. There was a mate of mine.
Why have you never cried?
I've never seen the need to have to express that sort of emotion.
Have you never actually just cried because you couldn't help it?
No, not at all. No.
So you've never cried?
No. I don't think I ever have.
Really?
Now here, for instance, about this. I had a mate in Fleet Street, right, and his name... He's dead now, dead a long time. And his name... Joe. His name was Joe. Okay, we'll just leave it at Joe, okay?
Okay.
And he...
Is that his real name?
It was his real name.
Okay.
So he starts this affair with a lady at the Express, and he was a travelling foreign correspondent, football reporter.
You don't have to give any more away, though.
No.
In case she and her family are still around.
No, he's been dead a long time.
No, what about her family?
Well, she went on and
you've now described a guy who was a foreign travelling football reporter called Joe, who worked for the Express.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah.
Well, that's quite specific.
Yeah, okay, well, it doesn't matter. I haven't said anything about the lady with whom he was associated.
Well, yeah, but I mean, you've given plenty of clues.
Actually, all those guys in those days, because communications were so different to the way they are today.
Well, what if their wives are listening?
Well, it's all a long time ago.
It doesn't matter.
Well, I'm not being specific, but they all took away a girlfriend with them because when the Daily Express book you a room in Barcelona or Milan or Rome or something like that, they book you a hotel room and you get a decent double room. So you might as well take your girlfriend with you, you know what I mean? Who is your mistress?
If you're working.
Yeah, you might as well, because while you're at the game...
That's shocking.
While you're at the game, she can get together with the other guy's girlfriends, and they can all have a night in the hotel bar and all that kind of stuff, watch the football on the telly and all that kind of stuff.
Totally wrong.
No, and all you had to do was really pay for a sort of budget flight to get them out there and get them back. It's as simple as that,
Well, yeah, but there is the other matter of, the as you would describe it, the morals of an alley cat scenario, where you've got to duck and dive when you leave the airport, just in case your wife is coming to see you off, or your
pick you up,
kids,
or something like that.
Or coming to pick you up. I mean, that's not on
there
at
is
all
that. Yeah, but I mean, when has that ever bothered you?
Well, of course,
it's bothered me. For you to raise an issue like that, a man who
I'm just astonished.
Who's a serial adulterer?
No, not at all. I mean, you describe me as that. You describe me as that.
A serial Rogerizer of people who is not his wife. No, that's you.
No, but I mean, what I find astonishing is that you're describing it as though there's no big deal about it.
Well, I'm telling you this.
You're saying it's perfectly normal and everything's perfectly okay, apart from the fact that you're defrauding your employer by making sure that somebody comes on a trip with you who you will no doubt be charging expenses on.
They did. Well,
but you seem to have no problem with that.
It was always very odd that, when this guy...
Well, I can promise you that I got sent on plenty of foreign trips and I never in a million years took anybody with me. Would never do that.
Of course you didn't. When you got there, you just looked around and Rogerised somebody who was local. That was you, the local Rogerizer.
Yeah, but that's different, though.
Oh, different? So you're not denying it, then?
No, I'm not saying it didn't happen.
No, you're not denying it.
But what I'm saying is that that's a very different scenario from actually planning, plotting, deceptively taking somebody with you who you know is going to enjoy what, to all intents and purposes, a mini holiday.
Anyway,
when you're supposed to be working.
What I'm
saying is shocking.
What I'm saying is, it was every time Joe was away on reporting on Manchester United or Liverpool or something like that, it was funny. We used to look around the office and think, oh, old so-and-so, who was the personal assistant so-and-so, oh, that's funny, she's booked a couple of days off.
So the woman actually worked at the office as well?
Absolutely, yeah. It was a well-known racket. They always took their girlfriends with them who were not their wives. But anyway, the point of my story is...
So what is the point of your story?
The point of the story is
that... outing some poor guy who's now passed on.
That Joe, this went on for about 18 months, and then said woman suddenly said, hang on, I'm not getting much of a deal here, and it happened after one particular Christmas. It always does.
Yeah.
How come I was sitting at home on my own on Christmas Day, and, you were in the bosom of your family, in your 4-bedroom detached house in Surrey, and in fact, actually, she got so upset. She went round to her parents. They got her dad's car out.
I think you mentioned this before.
Yeah, and they went and drove past his house on Christmas Day to see his comfortable domestic nest.
Yeah.
So next time,
that scene from A Fatal Attraction.
That's right.
She looks in the window and she throws up.
Yeah.
Because she's so sort of horrified.
Taking them with jealousy
happy scene
and envy. So anyway, next time,
she didn't boil his bunny, did she?
No, it wasn't quite that bad. So next time she saw him, she said, "What's going on here? You're taking advantage of me. All the time is your leg over on foreign trips to football matches and all that kind of stuff." And so for the first time in his life, Joe told me this later, by the way, he said, I didn't know what to do. I didn't know what to do. I didn't know what to say, what to do.
Was that the way he sounded?
Yeah.
So now you're giving more clues away.
No. I didn't know what to do or what to say. So what did he do? He said, I burst into tears. I told her I was emotionally distressed and in turmoil and couldn't think straight and I'd need time to think about it and,
that's the work
don't wreck my life and all this kind of stuff.
But that's the work of a charlatan.
Exactly, complete charlatan, but I mean, how can you judge on another man having a multiplicity of relationships with women when you spent your life doing it?
Yeah, because despite whatever you may think...
You are the alley cat, the original alley cat moralist.
Despite whatever you may think, actually, I do operate by a moral code, which you do not. You think nothing of turning people over, making a misery of people's lives, firing people whenever you like to. You know, bullying people are all over the place.
Never done that in my life.
You don't mind doing any of that stuff, but you pick on me just because I quite like the company of women. For some reason, but my moral code is very, very well intact. Thank you very much. And there are many things that you have done in your life that I would never have done.
What I'm saying is the reason I've given you the story about Joe, is that men, right, duplicitously, and I don't fall into this bracket, can suddenly use a show of emotion, a bursting into tears, a breakdown of, as a weapon when they can't think of anything else to get themselves out of a tight spot. And I think that's despicable.
Well, how about
I think a man who uses crying as a tactic to emotionally avoid reality of life. I would not, and I never have done.
No, I know you never have, but it's the sort of thing you would do just to get yourself out of a sticky situation.
I wouldn't.
How about this from Woodenhead? He says, I bet Porky cried when all his failed business deals happened. Losing money is the only way to bring Parry to tears.
Well, it does cause you pain, I have to say.
That would do it, yeah.
It never brought me to tears.
Here's one from Will in East London. Excuse me, Mr. Parry, you cried on TV when you tried to do the cinnamon challenge. Absolutely hilarious.
Excuse me, that was not crying.
Just tears were brought to your eyes.
That was tears of pain forced out of my tear ducts. That's what that was.
How about this from Becky? She says, I sat next to guys at a State of Origin rugby league game in Sydney. They cried their eyes out. It was pathetic. It's only a game. I mean, what about that?
Thank you.
But,
so that's crying through emotion, is it? Well, I think that's pretty pathetic
as well. You see people at the end. You'll see at the end of this season, the camera will pan around to the clubs getting relegated, to the clubs, who are going down to another division. And this is a question from somebody on text as well.
Yes.
What about the fans who cry when their team get relegated? Are you saying that's pathetic as well?
I think that's involuntary, and I can excuse that.
So you can excuse crying over a football team?
Well, no, I can excuse involuntary crying when something hits you and it's such a shock and you're so traumatised, tears start rolling down your cheeks.
You never cried at a sad movie or anything like that?
No, never. The only thing I would cry over is if I saw an animal being very badly treated or something like that, I would cry. But I managed to keep my emotions in check most of the time.
Is that right?
Yeah, I do.
You haven't got any emotions, that's right.
I have. Sometimes,
you have not got any emotions.
Sometimes I read stories about how children
are
badly treated by their ghastly, brutal parents, and that nearly reduces me to tears, but I just pull myself together,
really,
and keep myself in shape. Yeah, but I think to see a man crying on a regular basis, if a man uses tears as a remember the deputy picture editor who got on his knees and said to the Dukanovic, who was taking redundancy money, "Oh, Duke, please don't take that redundancy money, please let me take it. We've got to get rid of one person on the picture desk. There's only one load of redundant. I need it because my life is in ruin. My wife's leaving me."
Yeah, but you're talking about charlatans here.
Yeah, I am. Because then the Duke kindly said, "Well, I didn't know you were in such terrible trouble. All right, go on. I'll soldier on. You take the redundo and you leave." The guy left, and what happened the next day? He was made picture editor of the Daily Mirror.
That's right.
Complete charlatan.
We really need a not this story again signal for every time Porky tells the same story, says Woodenhead.
What?
Very true. We'll have to get another siren.
Oh, yeah.
This is Talk Sport. Coming up next, Sandra Lee's going to be here.
Get the job done on Talk Sport with Tool Station. Will Spain reign again?
And Spain are into the lead.
Are France in with a chance? Or will the Three Lions finally rule? As the International League prepare to go head-to-head to lift the biggest prize in European football, join Hawksby and Jacobs to find out which team can get the job done. UEFA Euro 2016 on Talk Sport with Tool Station. Low prices on top trade brands. Open late 7 days a week. Find your nearest branch at toolstation.com.
Pulling pints at a golf club was boring. But since joining the Navy as a steward, no 2 days have been the same. I've learned loads of new skills that have helped me serve high-profile officials in places as far-flung and exotic as the Caribbean and the Indian Ocean. I'm now fully qualified in hospitality management, so I could leave and help run a hotel. But why do that when I can help run a state-of-the-art Navy warship? I was born in London, but I was made in the Royal Navy. Start your journey. Search Made in the Royal Navy.
We're gathered here today to witness these two in holy matrimony, to have and to fold, to love and to cherish, in good times and the evening dew. Do you, Sally W. 1986, take thee, Saucy Susie 123's wedding dress?
I do.
If any person has any reason to outbid her, please speak now. I hereby pronounce this wedding dress sold.
Give someone else a special day and make some money too. Bish bash dosh. eBay.
I know. The state pension is changing.
I know.
How much you get will still depend on your national insurance record. And don't forget you may still have a private pension to consider too.
I know. I'll be able to see how much I'm likely to receive and understand what I can do to improve my state pension.
I know. If you reach state pension age on or after the 6th of April 2016, you'll be part of the new scheme.
Make sure you know the facts about the new state pension. Visit gov.uk/yourstatepension for more information.
He's got the numbers on the players, the triumphs and defeats. Got the form on the football weekend and the rumors on the streets. Get all the stats and all the facts with his football form report. Stay on the ball on Friday night with Sky Bet and TalkSport.
Get unmissable analysis and expert soccer speculation on all the weekend's big games. Stay on the ball on Kickoff, the Players' Lounge, on TalkSport with Sky Bet. On a mission to make betting better. Visit skybet.com today. Gambleaware.co.uk. The Two Mics. Simulcast across the UK on TalkSport and Talk Radio.
Do you come from a land down under? Women go and men wonder. Can't you hear the thunder? You better run, you better take cover.
This is TalkSport. We are the Two Mics, and I'm delighted to say that it's time to talk to our very, very favourite Australian, Miss Sandra Lee, down in Sydney. Sandra, very good morning to you.
Good morning to you two chaps and to all of your audience.
Yes, and a happy Easter as well, if I may say so, even though in these kind of what you might describe as dissolute times. I'm not sure if you're allowed to say that in Australia, are you?
Oh, I think the PC Brigade would sort of have our guts for garters if we said that.
Yes. No, exactly. Well, let me preempt Porky's ridiculous question, which will come halfway through you and I talking. Which will be, so what do you do for Easter in Australia, Sandra?
Sorry, Sandra, I had no intention of asking that ridiculous question.
Of course you did.
Only a thick ignoramus like Mike Graham could think of one like that.
Well, why don't you let her answer it?
Well, yes, okay. Yeah.
So what do you do for Easter in Australia, Sandra?
Exactly what you guys do in England.
A bit of roast lamb on Sunday?
Bit of roast lamb, bit of chocolate Easter egg.
Well, you see, that must be the problem.
She's still answering the question.
No, but that must be the problem. In a country like Australia, where it's permanently about sort of 43 degrees centigrade, how do you keep Easter eggs from melting instantly when you take them out the silver paper?
Well, we have a thing called the refrigerator.
Oh, right, okay. Yeah,
and air conditioning.
Yes, that's right.
Remember air conditioning?
Yes, yeah. No, I'm talking about outside. You have parties outside, don't you?
What?
Yeah, but it's not that hot at the moment.
Okay.
We're well into autumn.
Okay. Good. Now then, I'll tell you what.
You're very worried about the Great Barrier Reef, aren't you, Paul?
Well, I mean, this is a big problem. I've been reading in my geographical survey journals, Sandra, that the old Great Barrier Reef, graphic images of devastating heat-induced bleaching rolling over the Great Barrier Reef have been released by the authorities and raised the reef's threat level to its maximum point. I mean, we're not going to lose one of the world's great natural wonders, are we?
I don't think we'll lose it, but I wonder, does that make you cry?
No, it does not make me cry, Sandra. I don't cry on things like that, OK?
I mean, I imagine, Sandra, it will come as no surprise to you that Porky says he's never cried. Because
I don't think I have.
A colder man and a more emotionless man, I don't think either of us have ever met, right?
Well, I think you probably cried over football, maybe.
I think the last time I cried, Sandra, was when I was with you in the Essex House Hotel in New York and they'd run out of Pinot Grigio.
I thought you didn't ever want to talk about that.
Well, I don't think we will talk about that, no.
Well, you've entered into the conversation. Tell us about it.
No.
Why don't you tell us about that?
It was only a social gathering.
Oh, really?
Lots of other people there. Yeah.
Okay. Well, until the end.
I don't know about that.
Yeah.
Right.
Well, let's ask Sandra. I mean, Sandra, you're a woman of the world. I mean, what's your view of men that cry? I mean, obviously it depends on why they're crying, doesn't it?
It absolutely depends on why they're crying. I have to say, though, our new Prime Minister cried very recently on television when he was doing a national television interview. And he cried when he recounted the story of hearing an old Aboriginal lady talking about a lullaby that her mother sang to her.
Oh,
now, I have to say, I'm not kidding, when he started crying, I think all of Australia's womanhood cried with just, oh no, you're kidding me.
Yeah, really. Yeah. But again, that looks to me like a sort of calculated attempt to try and gain.
Is this Malcolm Turnbull?
Sympathy.
Is this Malcolm Turnbull?
Malcolm Turnbull.
Yeah. This is the guy who was involved in Spycatcher, wasn't he? Who was the hotshot lawyer. I mean, any politician who cries just for the sympathy of it, in my mind, loses 80% of the support he had when people voted him in, because what we want in politicians and leaders is strong people who don't go around crying, you know?
That's right.
Yeah.
Steely-wheeled people who are going to get the job done.
Yes, absolutely. There's no room for crying. I mean, if Winston Churchill burst into tears every time Hitler dropped a few more bombs on the East End of London...
Yeah, but hang on, you don't know if he cried in private. That's different.
Well, he certainly wasn't crying in public, and Sandra's just said that, the Australian Prime Minister was crying in public.
I think
it's pathetic.
I think anyone who makes a show of any massive emotion for political purposes or gain is obviously in the wrong. But I think it's very clear that your ridiculous black and white view of this is completely and utterly wrong.
Pathetic.
I mean, the fact that you even care about the Great Barrier Reef is astonishing.
I do care about the Great Barrier Reef.
Why do you care about that?
Why? Why do I care about it?
Why do you care about it?
Because it's one of the world's great natural wonders.
Right, and what's wrong with it?
What? There's nothing wrong with it. It's just
There's nothing wrong with it.
No. There would be things wrong with it if we didn't keep an eye on all this bleach rolling over it. Yeah, the Great Barrier Reef.
Perhaps
Anyway,
we'll get Sandra to explain it. Sandra, can you tell us what's going wrong with the Great Barrier Reef?
I can. Basically, when the water temperature goes up by about 1 degree or more, the algae, which keeps the barrier reef alive because it feeds off it and also gives it its colour, the algae goes into sort of a bit of damage control and shuts down, and hence the reef becomes bleached whiter. But it's not all over for it. It can regenerate itself, and most of the times it does.
Well, I hope so.
And so is the idea that this is happening because the sea temperature is rising due to the climate change that we keep hearing so much about?
Yes, that's exactly what all the experts are saying. But we have to remember this has been going on for decades, well before sort of, the great big bogeyman of climate warming came out.
Yes, I totally agree with you. It's one of those things we've got to keep our eyes on.
I thought you didn't believe in global warming.
Sorry?
I thought you didn't believe in it.
Well, I believe the climate change is going on, but it's not global warming. It's not caused by mankind. It's caused by sunspots, OK?
Sunspots?
Yeah. Now, Sandra. Excuse me, Sandra.
How long have you known Sandra? How long have you known her?
Sandra, I do apologise. This man scrambles my brain. Now, Sandra,
long before I met you.
Now, Sandra, I wanted to tell you about something you may not even know about yourself, because I get information from all over the world. Did you know that a group of people from the Royal Melbourne Institute of Technology have invented a suit that cleans itself? Researchers have found a way for clothes to clean themselves when stains are exposed to the light. This has been invented by scientists at the Royal Melbourne Institute of Technology, and you need only 6 minutes of sunshine or artificial light from a bulb to break down spills and stains, and all of a sudden you've got a new clean suit. That's fantastic invention. Another wonder that the Australians have given to the world.
I bet you still can't get one in your size, though.
Oh, it's very funny, that, isn't it?
Sandra's laughing.
I'm trying to talk about a new scientific development, and you just want to sort of, make fun of it because you don't understand it.
So how does it clean itself?
Well, it's sunlight breaks down the stains.
So you put it out in the sun?
You just walk around in it in the sun. Are you aware of this one, Sandra?
I'm not aware of it, and I wish I had remained unaware of it because it sounds absolutely ghastly. And I have to say, if it's anything like the oven that we recently bought that was purported to be a self-cleaning oven, that was a great big a great big porky. So I'm not putting much faith in the self-cleaning suit.
I mean, self-cleaning ovens, by the way, what a stupid expression. If you've got a joint in an oven and it's spitting and pushing fat all over the place for 3 hours, how does it clean itself when you take the joint out? I mean, who gets in it and cleans it? I don't know.
Well, nobody gets in it and cleans it. It's meant to be a thing that you close. You put the cleaning. The cleaning goes on inside the oven.
Doesn't though, does it?
It doesn't.
Yeah. Okay. Now, I mean, the thing is, Sandra, if you don't mind me saying this, some of the times that the three of us collectively with colleagues used to have in New York, in Costello's and places like that, a self-cleaning suit would have been very useful after a visit to the local Indian, wouldn't it?
Well, speak for yourself.
Well, yeah, all right, I will. Okay, yeah.
I mean, I'll tell you a story about that, actually, about a guy whose suit got so much curry on it because he got in a fight in a curry house. Yeah. He actually just burned it.
That's right.
He didn't bother trying to clean it at all.
Right.
Now, let me ask you about a slightly more sensible story, Sandra, that I spotted this week. Yeah. Apparently, John Cleese is threatening to take legal action against an Australian theatre company who I was unaware of, but for 20 years have apparently been taking a show called Fawlty Towers, The Dining Experience around the world and doing quite well with it.
He is, and until John Cleese made this public, I don't think very many people knew about it in Australia. It's a Queensland theatre company, and they have this. It's a theatre dining experience, and you pay. In Australia, just recently, you could pay up to $200 to sit in the Opera House and have 3 cast members who are all exactly named out of the Fawlty Towers original show.
Mm.
And they would serve you up an absolute mad mayhem dinner and as sort of, theatrical experience. And Johan Cruyff found out about it when he was interviewed by a journalist down here while he was flogging his upcoming show, which is going to debut, make the world premiere here.
Mm.
And he got a bee in his bonnet about it, and he's decided to start talking legal action. Now, who knows if he's going to do it?
Sure.
But will they be forced to stop doing this show now, then?
Well, it depends on what the legal action determines.
I'm asking you.
Yeah, well, I'm telling you how the legalese works, you know.
Yeah, you're a great legal expert, are you?
Well,
were you sued by Kate Adie successfully in the High Court?
Well, that's irrelevant to the John Cleese situation,
no,
isn't
it's
it?
not. It tells me how much you know about the law.
See, you can never answer a question. You have to throw it, don't you? Throw it back.
I'm just saying you don't know anything about the law.
Why don't we let Sandra answer the question?
Why don't we? Yeah. Sandra, what's going to happen?
Well, this theatre company has been doing this show since 1997, so it's almost 20 years old. And at the moment, they have 9 international cast members doing the same show all around the world, and they've taken it to 20 countries.
Yeah.
So it's going pretty well. And I was reading a disclaimer on the theatre company's website, and they say that they're not taking any of the copyrighted material from the original television series. It's all their own copyrighted material. And in fact, 70% of the show is improvisation. So they say they have nothing to fear, and that in the world of theatre, sort of a little bit of flattery and imitation is considered paying homage rather than intellectual property theft.
Yeah, well, I think these people...
I suppose it's easy for them to say, isn't it?
Yeah, but they're so precious, aren't they, people like John Cleese? I mean, how is John Cleese viewed in Australia, Sandra? Because here in Britain, we've now started to regard him as a bit sort of an ageing, whinging, guy who's always
He's always saying he's running out of money because he keeps making the wrong choices of women to marry, doesn't
he keeps marrying women and then having to pay them like £14 million in divorces and all this kind of stuff, and then whinging and moaning that, life is so unfair. But he now does adverts up in this country which are pathetic, adverts for things like Yellow Pages and that kind of stuff. So I think he's way over the top. I don't know how the Australians view him.
Well, he's got a bit of a fan following here in Australia. At the moment, he and Eric Idle are doing a show together, touring the country, and that's doing quite well. But he's always whining and moaning about how hated he is back in his homeland.
Oh, really?
It's always quite amusing. He said recently that his recent autobiography was received really well in Canada and Australia, and yet in England he was bagged by the Daily Mail and various other press who said that, this is a great quote, he said that they said my autobiography was too self-indulgent.
Well, I mean, I think there is a bit of that goes on, but there are sometimes, of course, some of these celebs who go and live in other parts and only lived in America for a while, and then they look back at Britain and think, why is everyone in Britain so horrible to me? And they don't really understand it. But he has made a bit of a fool of himself over the recent months, I would say.
Well, he's been making a fool of himself the last 10 years because he's so old now. The only thing he did...
How old is he?
He's about 74. 77, is he? Yeah, incredible. Yeah,
I think around that.
Yeah, well, that's incredible.
You're 10 years older than you.
Think back to the days of Fawlty Towers and you think, what happened to that man? Yes.
Well, he got old.
Yeah, that's right, he did. Yeah, we all do.
Got old and unfunny.
Yeah, but that's right.
Yeah, a bit like Porky.
Excuse me.
Anyway, listen, Sandra, I'm afraid we've run over time as ever, but a delight to talk to you. Have a lovely Easter Sunday.
Yeah.
And the best to everybody down there in Sydney. We'll come and see you soon.
Thank you. It's been lovely hearing you chat.
And yourself, Sandra. Thank you ever so much. What a girl.
We're very, very late as ever, Porky, because you've been running off at the mouth. This is TalkSport. That was Sandra Lee.
The Two Mics, simulcast across the UK.
Story about the Beatles.
There is, I know.
Almost every single day.
I know, you're absolutely right.
On this particular occasion, our executive producer, Mr. Levine, has handed us a story about Ringo Starr's house being put up for sale. But it's because it's in the Independent, or in the Eye, I should say. It's written in a very obscure way.
Yes.
Because it's on one of those nights when the paper had to go to press before they knew what had gone on.
Yeah, because the auction was yesterday,
right? Listen to this for an intro, right?
Yeah.
Ringo Starr's old Liverpool home was expected to attract worldwide interest when it went under the hammer yesterday evening.
Yeah, no, yeah.
I mean, why even bother writing the story?
I don't know.
So by the time you've read the story, the house has probably either not been sold or been sold.
You might as well have waited and done the story the following day when you knew what happened to it, you know. But apparently you've researched this and you found out it's been bought by a woman who has now acquired her third Beatles property.
It has been bought by a woman who is a Beatles fan, apparently, and her name is Jackie Holmes. She's 49 years old. She's paid $70,000 for the childhood home of Ringo Starr.
It's not a lot, that, is it?
It's not. Well, it's an Admiral Grove dingle. Yes. You'll know more about that than I would.
No, but I knew Dingle. I think it's a terraced house, actually.
It is, yeah. It was on the market. I think it was the list price was $55,000. So at a property auction, it went up, 10% or so. Apparently, the auction was held at the Cavern. But she also already owns the former home of John Lennon's mother.
That's Julia.
Right?
She was knocked down and
she also owns George Harrison's former childhood home in Speke.
In Speke, near the airport. Yeah.
I don't know why I have to say it like that. We always feel like you have to say Speke.
Yeah, Speke. Yeah.
So she's now got three Beatles homes. I mean, she might have to change her name to Jackie Beatles Homes.
Well, or whatever. But that's incredible. That to have that sort of dedication.
Why wouldn't you get yourself involved in a bit of that?
Well,
I mean, you could have probably released some funds from your property empire, couldn't you?
No, I'll tell you why. Because actually, I think that is a bit morbid. I think owning the home of somebody who lived there, and you go inside and you say, this was Paul McCartney's bedroom.
Well, somebody's going to buy your childhood home because that's up for sale.
Yeah, they are actually. Yeah, that's but it's all been renovated. A lot of these homes that people buy, which have historically belonged to famous people, haven't been changed since the day they lived there. You know what I mean? The whole idea is...
But surely they would have been changed a bit, wouldn't they?
Well, I don't know. I mean, I suppose it might but I do think it's a bit morbid. I mean, look, I very much admire the lady Jackie who's bought these homes, and it's what she wants. That's fine. Have a property collection like that. But she can't buy those purely as a buying and selling operation, which a lot of people do with property. You know what I mean?
Well, presumably she wants to keep it for its, sort of musical value or something.
But I mean, does it explain whether she opens them as museums, maybe a few days a year or something like that?
Apparently, it's part of a housing association, and apparently one of the clauses of the sale is that it would not be allowed to become a tourist attraction.
Oh, so she can't let people in to see it?
Apparently not, no.
Yes, it's weird, that. It's not weird.
The previous tenant passed away at the age of 91.
Well, there you go.
And she lived at the place for 40 years.
Yeah.
And she was well known for welcoming Beatles fans into her home and raising thousands of pounds of charity by doing so.
Oh, I see, by asking for a donation when they came in. Yeah, so that's a good idea.
But apparently it's now part of a housing association, so she won't be allowed to use it as a sort of tourist attraction.
Yeah, I find that a bit odd. I think to go that far down the road of
fandom.
Well, I was going to say personal worship.
Yeah.
Because that's what you're doing. I mean, you're personally worshipping somebody who lived, and to take their home, I find that's something that I wouldn't feel comfortable with. Right. But I'm not knocking her for doing it.
No,
I mean, there's many different ways of showing your appreciation of something. I show my appreciation by endlessly listening to Beatles music.
And endlessly talking about
reading about it, talking about it, thinking about it. And wishing that, you could live through the era again. What
she says is that she wouldn't be able to buy garage in North London for what she paid for the house. And funnily enough, this piece that I've got here actually has from Rightmove a garage in NW6, which is West Hampstead, for $65,000.
Yeah, I can believe it.
So you buy garage, which says it's a studio, walking distance to the tube, good residential area, perfect for storage, secure garage.
Yes.
New garage doors. So it's literally a garage.
I can believe it.
It's not even a decent garage. No. It's one of those in one of those sort of little backwaters.
I know. It almost looks like it needs renovating itself, doesn't it?
Incredible.
But it's funny what you say there, It's funny what you say there about, you can't go through a day without something about the Beatles happening in your life. It is amazing. You're absolutely right. If you're walking around a supermarket, you may hear a Beatles song. If you're flipping through a newspaper, you'll see something relating to one of the Beatles. If you go into a shop, you will find something which relates to, I don't know, Beatle memorabilia or something like that. It is astonishing the way that those four guys completely have dominated our lives for so many decades.
Yeah.
Unbelievable.
But it doesn't mean that some people still wish you would shut up about them occasionally. Well, how about this one from D?
Yeah.
He says, Porky's like my missus, constantly telling you the same story and wants you to stay interested as if it's for the first time.
Well, I can't remember telling a story tonight that I've told before. Honestly, I can't.
Really? Well, obviously you can't.
Otherwise you would tell me which it is.
Otherwise you wouldn't tell them again. If you knew you told them before, you wouldn't tell them again.
Let me tell you a new story. story.
We haven't got time.
Well, we have.
No, we haven't.
Yeah, we have in a minute.
No,
we will
in a minute.
In a minute.
Hold on to that thought. You can tell me. Jack in Essex has texted in. This perception that men who cry are weak is ridiculous. Humans feel emotion, and that shows passion and care. I don't believe that Porky has never cried, but I feel sorry for him over his complete lack of emotion. I rarely cry, but I'm not going to pretend that I never do in order to appear macho, as Mr. Parry is doing.
No, I'm not trying to appear macho. I'm just telling you that is just the.
You just don't have any emotions.
It's just the state of my emotional makeup. The story's going to tell you, right?
You have to be quick.
Yeah, I'll be quick about it. The prison van pulled away from the Bradford Crown Court today with Adam Johnson in it.
Yeah.
And of course, the press photographers do what they normally do, and they go up to the side of the van
through the window,
and they try to get a flash through the window in the hope it'll go through the blacked out window and get an image.
And often it does.
Sometimes it does, but they've got to be lucky that A, they've got the right window, and B, they've got the right angle and everything else. And I noticed
they sometimes get a tip on that. By the way.
Sometimes they're told which one it is. You're absolutely right. But I noticed as the van pulled out onto the road, and the guy put his foot down, the van swung out at the back, and it knocked the last photographer flying. Literally knocked him all over the place. Camera went flying, everything. But I tell you where that started. The very first time that ever happened, the Yorkshire Ripper was being brought out of the Old Bailey, literally, right? And I was working with a lad called John Rogers, who was about 22 or 23, trying to make his way in Fleet Street. He was a freelancer, and nobody ever did it in those days. For some unknown reason, he went up alongside the van, held his camera up and flashed it once. That's all.
And
everybody else wondered what he was doing. You don't know you've got anything until in those days you have to actually fix your picture.
You have to get it developed,
He goes back to the darkroom at the Daily Express, he takes his film in, he's sitting there with his feet on the desk, all of a sudden all these guys are coming, running out the darkroom, oh, John, you're a genius. And I'm there, what? You've got a picture of the Ripper. Because you're not allowed to take pictures in court, of course. And you're allowed to take pictures in jail. So, and they used it on the front page of the Daily Express. It was a world-exclusive picture of the Ripper, after he'd been convicted of being the Ripper. And it made his name. Very shortly after he got a job on the Express, he had a great career. And I'm supposed he's still working somewhere. I haven't spoken to him for years. But he started it. I saw him on the day he started outside the Old Bailey.
I don't remember John Rogers. Where is he now, then?
I don't know. I don't think he works in Fleet Street anymore because I haven't seen him or seen his byline or anything like that for a good number of years. I don't know. A lot of photographers who are press photographers now work in photography doing lots of other things, but not
because there's no money in newspapers anymore.
There's no demand for it. There is simply no demand for it anymore. Digital photography now, one snap of a camera, that picture can go to 60 different outlets within seconds.
Exactly right.
And there's just not the need for the numbers anymore.
No, quite.
Kick-Off International Special this Monday night from 7. Wales take on a country that's 29 times the size of Wales as they face Ukraine in a pre-Euro 2016 friendly match. Hear full match commentary direct from Kiev.
Jazz Richards on the corner of the edge of the 18-yard box. Get the
there
ball
we go!
in! And Gareth Bale powers the header in!
Ukraine versus Wales, live this Monday night from 7 on Talk Sport.
This is Talk Sport. We are the two mics. There will be a podcast coming out in due course, of course. How about this from Videotech, who's texted in. He says, Mike Graham and Mike Parry invited guests from the other side of the world on the show, then proceed to punch verbal lumps out of each other.
What?
It's just his,
I don't think so.
Simon says, Porky's wrong again. Yes. The prison van pic taken of the Craze years before the Ripper. Was the first one.
No, it wasn't.
Well, that's what he says.
No, I can tell you it wasn't. There was no...
Neil says the same. First photo of a prisoner. What about all those photos of the Craze gang in prison van leaving court in 1969?
Right, can I tell you the answer to that one? Because I know this historically. What happened was they were put in a prison van with a window in the back door, and the court authorities tipped off the Fleet Street photographers about what time the van was coming out, where it was coming out, and the fact that they'd put the Craze at the back, because that van took 10 people out of the Old Bailey, but they put the Craze right at the back. The window was a clear window in those days. It wasn't blacked out, and that was the picture you're talking about. I'm talking about the first ever successful blast of a flash through a dark and blacked out window in a prison lorry. Not the old-fashioned... The Craze were carried out in a basically a dormer van with a window in the back.
Okay.
Yeah.
How about this from Steve? He says, Geographical Survey Journal, Porky, don't you mean National Geographic subscription?
No, I don't actually. No.
Carl says, Porky never cries. I would if I saw that in the mirror every day.
That's very nice, isn't it? Yeah. Thank you very much for being so kind.
When Piers Morgan didn't invite him to his party?
Well, I didn't really cry. I mean, I felt that it's a situation other people, who felt so badly put down might have done, but I didn't. Big enough to rise to it and say, look, you pick yourself up, shake yourself down, and you just get on with it.
Oh, okay.
Yes.
Excellent stuff.
Yes.
Lots and lots more. Here's a strange one from Becky. She says she's having a strange afternoon, tying snapper rigs, drinking wine, and listening to the two mics. Surprised a size 4/0 circle hook is not impaled in my finger.
Right. Really? What's she doing? Sewing?
I think she's doing something to do with fishing.
I see. Yeah, really. Yeah,
tying a snapper rig, isn't that a fishing term?
I think it is, and I think
a circle hook.
People in New Zealand do a lot of fishing because there's a lot of fish around, aren't there?
Yeah, there are.
You know what I mean? All those flowing rapids and all that kind of stuff. You know what I mean?
Flowing rapids.
Don't you? Actually, a lot of people go whitewater rafting, don't they, in New Zealand?
I imagine they probably do. Yeah, it's quite an outdoorsy kind of situation.
Yeah, of course it is.
I was very pleased it rained actually tonight because I was able to finally get my car clean because my car's been sort of caked in mud for the best part of about a month.
Yeah, well, rain doesn't clean cars.
No, it does. It cleans my car.
Yeah, it doesn't.
Well, those little runners that go underneath my my Mercedes.
Yes.
They've been sort of covered in mud because down on the farm.
Yes.
There's been a bit of construction going on.
Down on the farm.
And so it's been very muddy. So I haven't bothered cleaning the car because it's so muddy down there that it would just get covered in mud again.
Yeah.
But tonight, driving up on the old A21,
we sort of cleared it.
We managed to get all the mud off it. Yeah. So it actually looks practically like a new car.
Okay. Talking about New Zealand, by the way, I haven't been to New Zealand, but my sister has.
Has she?
She says that in the big cities like Wellington and Auckland, there's a third one, isn't there? Wellington, Christchurch, that's right. Very modern cities. But go 30 miles into the country, and it's like going into a time warp of 1950s Britain.
Some people like that, though.
Yeah, I'm not saying it's a bad thing. No, the Isle of Wight's not like that. No, I go to the Isle of Wight quite a lot, actually.
I call it the land that time forgot, the Isle of Wight. When was the last time you were there?
About maybe last year. And
you went to the Isle of Wight last year?
Yeah, about 6 months ago, yeah.
Why?
Well, we went for lunch.
Who did?
I went, the members of my family went over on the ferry.
Did you?
Yes.
Where'd you go for lunch?
On the Fast Cat. We went to a place called...
Did you go on the hovercraft?
No, not the hovercraft. The Fast Cat. It's called the Fast Cat. It's not a trimaran, a catamaran. Yeah. And it whizzes over there in like 12 minutes or something like that.
So where does it come into then?
It goes into wherever the places where they've got that London Underground train as the connection between...
That's Ride, isn't it?
That's Ride, is it? Yeah, Ride, yeah, okay, yeah.
You get on a little train that comes down the pier. That's where the hovercraft comes in.
Is it? Yeah, okay. And then we went to a place called... Is it Sea Houses?
I don't know. Sea Houses, maybe?
Sea Houses, that's the name of the place, the hotel there, and had a fabulous lunch. But no, I don't see anything dated about the Isle of Wight, to be honest. I know what you mean. You're saying, it's a bit... I mean, I suppose there's a bit of that in the middle, but most of it's
I find it's quite charming.
Yes.
It's partly because it's kind of, it's because it's a bit old-fashioned and a bit slow. That it's rather nice.
Yeah. I think it's very charming.
Here we go. The Lynx Hotel, is that it?
No, not Lynx. Where's that?
In Sea Houses.
In Sea Houses, yeah, that could be it. Yeah, if you show me a picture of it, I'll let you know.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. Well, show me a picture.
Well, I'm just looking to see if I've got the right part of the world.
We'll make sure you have.
Because Sea Houses, I'm not sure is actually no. Sea Houses is up on the northeast coast near Bamborough.
Yeah, I think that's it. Yeah.
No, that's Bamborough up in Northumberland.
Oh no. Oh yes, I know Sea Houses. Yeah. No, it's called something like that. Something like. Sea Houses.
Well, should I see if there's a Sea Houses on the Isle of Wight?
No, yeah, okay.
I don't think there is.
Maybe if it's not Sea Houses, it's...
Sea Horses?
No. Oh, I don't know. But anyway, look,
Sea Horses Bed and Breakfast. 4-star hotel, cosy B&B with 2 sunrooms and a garden. Sounds ideal for old people.
No, it's not that. Is
that it there?
Sea View? Could it be Sea View? Could be Sea View. Could be Seaview.
Seaview could be what? The name of the hotel or the name of the town?
Well, both. I think it was the Seaview Hotel in Seaview. I think that's what I think. But anyway,
Seaview Isle of Wight. Here we go.
Seaview Isle of Wight. There you go. See, I got it right. Isn't that fantastic?
Well, you not got it right yet.
I know exactly what I'm talking about.
Yeah, it's quite near Ryde.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah.
So you come out of the station and turn left.
Yeah.
By the looks of it.
We got a taxi.
Well, you must have known which way you went.
Yeah, I do. Yeah. Went left. Yeah.
See, if there's a hotel.
So there you go.
Is that it there? Does it look like that?
Let me have a look.
It's like a beach there.
Let me have a look at this. Yes, that's it.
What did you have for lunch?
Fish.
Of course. Was it boiled?
I don't know, because I wasn't in the kitchen, was I? It was very nice.
What do you mean don't know?
We had
You
loads
weren't in
of
the
wine.
kitchen.
And do you know what the speciality was?
Loads of wine.
You know
how could you not know how it was cooked?
Well, I didn't ask. Now, the speciality was the cheese board at the end.
Right.
And so...
How was that a speciality?
Well, I'll tell you now. And I went with the family, and my brother-in-law was there. Now, he's a bit of an aficionado.
Was he the one I met?
Yes, he is. Yes. He's a bit of an aficionado with the old wines that match cheese. You see what I mean?
Right.
So anyway, these cheeses came out. I'm not joking. And the old, do you call it smorgasbord, the cheese board?
No.
No, okay, the cheese board.
You just call it a cheese board.
Cheese board, okay. So the cheese board comes out, and there's all these different. And so what's your problem?
Well, why would you call a cheese board a different kind of board?
Well, because a smorgasbord is a cheese board.
A smorgasbord is,
it?
generally speaking, a Swedish thing,
Yeah.
where they put all sorts of different food out,
Yeah.
literally on a board,
Yeah.
like a smorgasbord, but it's not just cheese.
Oh, I see.
Because it means it's a sort of, a concoction of all manner of things.
Well, I don't like all
but
that.
a cheese board's called a cheese board because all it's got on it is cheese.
Okay, well, this
Although
cheese
sometimes
board...
you'll have some quince on it.
There's this cheese board,
Some
right?
fruit, maybe.
And each cheese had a little flag stuck in it with a recommendation of a drink to accompany it.
Uh-huh.
And there were half a dozen ports,
right?
Half a dozen red wines, half a dozen white wines, and we had a small glass of every one.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
So how many bits of cheese did you have?
I don't know, 4 or 5.
So 4 or 5 small glasses. Did you have a Sauterne at any point?
Yeah, I had Sauterne, definitely.
That's quite a nice dessert wine.
But I mean, when I say a glass, I mean, not even a glass, not a glass of wine. It was a thimbleful full, if you see what I mean, with each cheese. But it was brilliant, brilliant. Yeah, it was great.
Yeah, but that's wasted on you, that kind of
it
Epicurean
wasn't.
delight, because your taste buds are not really designed to enjoy it.
No, it wasn't on that day, believe me. I warmed to it. It was very nice,
You must have not remembered the journey back then.
We walked back, actually, funnily enough.
What, to Portsmouth?
No, you idiots, to the...
Well, that's what I mean.
To the port, and then got the
Did you get the little train?
Back.
Did you get the little train?
Yes, got a little train, yeah. Yeah, but there was
it's an old Bakerloo line train, that, isn't it?
It is, yeah. Well, I'm not sure it's Bakerloo, but it's a it's a very old London Underground train.
Yeah,
and it's
because I got on it, and I remember thinking because it was when we were doing the mid-morning show, and it was a half term,
right?
And I took the kids down. We got a cottage.
Yeah, I remember.
And I took the hovercraft back and got the train back up to London. And I remember getting on that train and thinking, I remember getting on these trains as a kid.
That's right, yeah.
Because that's why I recognised it. Because I did my project on the London Underground, so I can recognise any old train.
A project?
Yeah, a project.
What sort of project?
When I was 11, I was asked to do a project on something.
Oh, really?
So I did a project on the London Underground.
Did you?
And I travelled around. That's why I can still remember the London Underground map in my head.
Oh, really?
You asked me how to get from one place to another.
It's a strange thing to do a project on for a child of 11. Well, no, normally you do it on, the Spitfire aeroplane or the Second World War or something like that.
I was doing something that was current, not something that was old.
Yeah, very odd.
And I took pictures, and I can bring it in and show you.
Very odd interest for an 11-year-old to have. And I did one once on battlefields from the Middle Ages.
Did you get 3 out of 10?
No, and I actually drew a trebuchet.
A what?
A trebuchet.
What's that?
It's a big machine that used to throw rocks at the enemy.
What,
huge
you mean
rocks.
like a catapult?
Yeah, that's right, yeah, but it was called a trebuchet. And what you did is you got a tree and you pulled it back like a spring, you know what I mean?
Right.
And then you put a big rock in the top and then you cut all the ropes and boom, and it hurled the rocks at the enemy.
So you drew one of these?
I drew one, yeah.
Like freehand?
Freehand, yeah. It was very good. I got a big mark for it because it was impressive, yeah.
Right.
Absolutely.
A fascinating story.
Yeah, well, I thought you'd like to know that.
If you've got any more like that, you can tell us some more
I thought
later.
the audience would like to know anyway.
We're getting very close to the King Alfred the Great quiz.
We certainly are.
Coming very soon on TalkSport.
Porky the Great.
TalkSport, we are the two mics. There will be a podcast coming out a little bit later on, of course. James says this: stand up, dust yourself down, and get on with it. Wise words from the one and only Mike Parry.
Thank you very much indeed.
I assume you must be being sarcastic by saying
no,
wise words.
No.
How about this from Simon in Sheffield?
Yeah.
Lunch menu: mint soup, fish boiled in milk, cheese and biscuits.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know if that's what you had.
What was that?
Mint soup, fish boiled in milk, cheese and biscuits.
No. Never had boiled in milk. You mentioned that, not me.
Did you have biscuits with the old cheese?
Yes.
Because, I was told by she up indoors and the mother of my children that she couldn't find any water biscuits in the supermarket yesterday.
Cars water biscuits?
Yeah, because the cars.
Lovely.
And I said, I told her that Cars water biscuits are in short supply.
Oh?
Did you not read the story a couple of weeks ago because of the flooding up in Cumbria? Because one of their big distribution points...
that's right.
Has been basically...
A biscuit factory's been closed down.
Yeah, it's been shut down. So, so you can't buy Cars water biscuits?
No, you can. And do you know why? They're being flown in from the continent.
There were none in the supermarket.
Well, that's a shame because they're trying to replenish.
If anyone can tell us if they can find any, because I might have to try and get some over the course of the next 24 hours.
Good idea. Have you got a telly in both the places you live?
Yeah.
1 in 20 families.
I've got more than one telly.
Yeah, well, exactly. I have as well. But 1 in 20 families have now completely ditched the TV altogether.
Why?
Because they don't think they need one anymore.
What, because they're watching everything on the computers?
Either that, or they have this sort of intellectual superiority now where their children don't need television anymore.
I see. Were you going to say that I was going to be one of them?
Yeah, I thought you might be, yeah, because...
Why would you think that? You think I'm some kind of snob?
I don't know, but...
You do, don't you? You think you do? You actually secretly think that I'm some kind of snob?
No, I don't.
Even though you're really the snob.
No. I think you have snobbish intentions, but you're not able to back them up. You know what I mean?
No, not at all. No, I don't know, but I want to be a snob, and I'm actually very, very much
you do have
in touch with normal people.
Oh, you have illusions of superiority, though.
Do you mean delusions of grandeur?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah,
no, I don't.
Yeah, you do. You have illusions of superiority.
No, you're the petty bourgeois man that thinks having a penthouse is better than having a flat, even though it's not.
One reason, by the way, the Dish Telly is that apparently people now have completely lost the idea of watching programmes in real time.
That's true.
So
I think that is true.
So what happens now is a lot of people have decided it's so comfortable to watch TV programmes on catch-up services, like, for instance, BBC iPlayer. Yeah. And what's the ITV one?
ITV Player.
ITV Player, is it? Yeah.
Cunningly.
Yeah, that's right. And they watch them on laptops, they watch them on trains, they watch them in the kitchen when they're making the dinner and all that kind of stuff. And
surely you still need a TV, though, to watch it on. I mean, you don't need a TV, but it's better to watch it on TV.
You watch them on the tablets and all this kind of stuff.
Yeah, see, I mean, I can do a bit of that, but I mean, my tablet has got a screen about 9 inches across or something. So, I mean, it's better to watch it on a bigger screen.
Now, apparently, this report was done by Barb, the official body which collects television audience figures, okay? And they found out that nearly 5% of homes, 4.7%, have no TV at all. That's the equivalent to 1.3 million households. Yeah. But what is interesting is when Bob's asked the reason why haven't you got a TV, it's because there was a significant number of people who said that their lives are richer without a TV. Yeah. That they believe their children have a better upbringing, not being in a position where they rush home from school and sit down in front of a TV.
Yeah, but
you
see, the difficulty with that is that children now rush home from school and get onto the PlayStation or get onto their their tablets or get onto their whatever their their Xboxes and that kind of thing. So in some ways it's been replaced because the fight now is not to get the kids away from the TV. Yeah. It's to get the kids away from some electronic device.
Absolutely.
I mean, we try and make sure that they don't use them during the week. Which at the beginning...
Well, the PlayStation.
Yeah, any kind of, kind of electronic thing, unless it's to do with homework. Right. They only get it at the weekend.
Well, that's it.
Because otherwise they're on it all the time.
I accept that. The Barb report says, one theory is non-TV households are online pioneers who are keen on TV but prefer to use computer devices to access it. However, the figure suggests those without TV sets are generally just less interested in the TV experience. And it's costing the BBC £150 million a year.
Well, I was going to say, is this being brought on by the fact that these people are not paying a TV licence? It's one of the issues, of course, is that if you watch things on the iPlayer, and you can do that without having a television, do you need to pay a TV licence? The BBC would say yes.
Well, there's a new law.
Would say no.
A new law apparently about to be introduced, which will mean that regardless of whether you're watching the BBC live or on catch-up, you still have to pay the £145.50
See, that's a rip-off
TV fee.
Yeah. I think they're going to have to change the whole way that the licence is paid for, or how the BBC is paid for, because obviously in the end, if, for example, I wanted to, I could watch everything I wanted to on this phone. Yeah. And, and if that was what I was going to do, why should I pay for a TV licence?
Yeah, this damned mission, by the way, by everybody in life to push us onto online has got my goat. Funny enough, I've just paid...
What do you mean?
I've just paid for one of my TV licences, right?
Yeah, right?
Now, for the past few years...
Right too.
Yeah, for the past few years, it's been easy. You get a demand through the door, and you look at it, and it says, ring this number, and you ring a number, and it is completely automated. Yeah. So, and it's very efficient. I'll give that to the BBC. Their method of repaying by phone is very efficient. You ring up, and a voice says, hello, and all that kind of stuff. What's your problem?
What do you mean the voice says hello?
Well, it does.
Who is it?
It's something like that.
Is it John Inman?
No, you idiot. You know, it's sorry. So then it says, have you give us first of all, give us your number, and that's on the demand notice.
Well, your phone number?
No, your account number for the BBC licence holder.
Okay.
So you give that. And then it says...
It's nothing to do with the BBC, this line, is it?
Well, they've set it up with a company that does it, right, TV licensing.
Yeah.
And then it says, you owe £150, how do you want to pay? And then you press this button.
Do you ever get that thing, though, where they say, I'm sorry, I can't understand your last answer?
No.
You never get that?
No, because I don't do it by voice, I do it by numbers.
Oh, you punch it in?
Exactly,
okay.
Punch it all in.
Right.
And then it gives it, and then that, and then what's the safety code?
That takes a while, though,
and then they say, your card is...
Safety code?
You know, on the back.
What is that?
The 3 numbers on the back.
What are the 3 numbers?
I don't know. But it's on the card, isn't it?
Okay.
So then it says, your payment has been accepted. Thank you, goodbye. Bang. That's great. But guess what happened in the last one that came?
I don't know. What happened?
Right. They don't put a phone number on. They don't put it. Yeah,
you have to do it online.
No, actually, this is quite interesting. They don't put a phone number on. They put it online.
Right.
But because I'm smarter than the average bear, there is a phone number hidden away. But it's
hidden.
Yeah, but
is it hidden?
Well, it's hidden in the small print at the bottom.
What? So it's actually on the piece of paper.
Yeah, but it's
not really hidden then.
No, but it's not. No. What I mean is, it's not for the ordinary punter.
Oh, I see.
It's for the deaf and the blind. So I ring up pretending to be deaf and blind,
right,
and then I can access the.
Why do you have to always pretend though?
Well, because you can't use it if you're not. You know what I mean?
Well, how can they prove whether you are deaf or blind?
Well, they're too embarrassed to ask. So I ring the deaf and blind number, and
do you get a person then?
Yeah, you do actually. Yeah, that's right. You do. Yeah. Well, you get a person who will.
Well, if you're deaf though, how do they ask you whether you are?
No. You don't understand. If you're hard of hearing, you can like magnify the sound and all this kind of stuff.
Right.
And what you have to ask for access to the the one I've just described, and then you get it.
Right.
But you have to sort of change your voice a bit. Hello.
Why?
Well, you have to pretend to sound like incapacitated.
Why? Well, if you're just blind, why would you sound any different?
Well, I suppose, I don't know, because, you're having trouble seeing the phone number or something like that, you know what I mean? And sort of whatever, hello, you could help me, please,
Yeah.
So I sort of...
Wouldn't it just be easy to do it online or just do a direct debit?
No, I don't like doing things online. I don't like putting
why don't you just do a direct debit?
Well, I might think about that in the future, but I do not like putting my credit card numbers into what I call the ether.
Right. You don't mind punching them into a phone number that could be hacked by any time?
No, because that's going directly to the TV licensing people. It's not a problem with that.
You think that?
Hey?
Did you see that story yesterday, by the way, about old Hogan Howe? Who said that people who don't take enough precautions
shouldn't get compensation.
Isn't that the most ludicrous thing you've ever heard?
Absolutely. This is a guy, right, who has managed to waste about 3 or 4 million quid on police inquiries.
Well,
in fact, much more.
Try a billion.
Try
a billion.
Yeah, but at least 3 or 4 million quid alone on the one about the credible and true allegations against a load of dead people like Edward Heath.
No, that was about a billion, wasn't it?
No, I don't think it's a billion.
Think it was.
No, it wasn't. I don't think it was. In the actual manpower and all that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
He's wasted, I totally agree with you, he's wasted tens of millions of pounds on that, on the investigation into journalists.
They should take that
and all
out of his salary for the next 10 years.
Yeah, that's right. So he's saying people don't look after their money properly. If it's not your money, Hogan, now,
right.
It's public money, which you're wasting, having all these ridiculous campaigns against people who are not guilty of anything.
The arrogance of a guy to say, give the bank permission to ring you up and say, well, because you didn't buy our software protection,
exactly,
we're not going to repay you the money that this guy has stolen from you, even though it's a crime.
Yeah,
unbelievable.
He's actually saying, well, if you didn't, you know all the time, by the way, when you've got a laptop open, you get all this, protect yours, buy this for £32 a month and all that kind of stuff. You just delete them and they go away.
Yeah.
He's saying that, you should pay all those, and if you don't, then you don't get any compensation when people steal your money. He's supposed to be a policeman who's selling you, well, if people steal your money, you shouldn't expect to get it back.
I know.
I mean, what kind of a copper says that? Hey?
I know, it's a shambles.
Do you know what sort of a copper says that?
What sort?
A Keystone cop.
A Keystone cop.
Yeah.
Quite right.
Yeah.
Coming up next, it's time for King Alfred the Great. It's the Porky Quiz.
He's got the numbers on the players, the triumphs and defeats. Got the form on the football weekend and the rumors on the streets. Get all the stats and all the facts with his football form report. Stay on the ball on Friday night with Sky Bet and TalkSport.
Get unmissable analysis and expert soccer speculation on all the weekend's big games. Stay on the ball on Kickoff, the Players Lounge, on TalkSport with Sky Bet. We're making betting better. Visit skybet.com today. Gambleware.co.uk.
Time for a new 16-plate van. Time for a Mercedes-Benz Citan, Vito or Sprinter. How about 0% APR and a service plan for just £10 a month across the whole model range? There's never been a better time than this March to drive away with a new 16-plate Mercedes-Benz van. Clock's ticking. Find out more at mbvans.co.uk. Business users only. Hire purchase only. Maximum term 36 months. Minimum deposit 20%. VAT at 20% applies. Credit approvals by 31st of March 2016. Mercedes-Benz Finance.
Download the TalkSport app now.
Can he finish? Oh, yes, he can.
Listen live 24/7. Visit talksport.com/apps or your provider's app store to download today and make sure you don't miss a thing. Plus, get the latest news and features from talksport.com.
Way too easy.
Download the TalkSport app now.
Pulling pints at a golf club was boring. But since joining the Navy as a steward, no 2 days have been the same. I've learned loads of new skills that have helped me serve high-profile officials in places as far-flung and exotic as the Caribbean and the Indian Ocean. I'm now fully qualified in hospitality management, so I could leave and help run a hotel. But why do that when I can help run a state-of-the-art Navy warship? I was born in London, but I was made in the Royal Navy. Start your journey. Search Made in the Royal Navy.
If you fancy a flutter on the football, a gamble on the golf, a double on the darts, or a treble on the tennis, you're in luck. Get closer to the action every weekend with Betway's Man in the Know on the Weekend Sports Breakfast with Georgie Bingham and Mickey Quinn. Bringing you all the form on the football, the going at Goodwood, the tries at Twickenham and the overs at the Oval. Every Saturday and Sunday morning from 7 on TalkSport with Betway. Bet the responsible way.
The Two Mics. Simulcast across the UK on TalkSport and Talk Radio.
We had to meet the enemy a mile away. Thunder in the air and the skies turn grey. Assemble in the night and the swords we showed. There was hope in our English arm. Hear our roar, hear our sound. We're gonna fight until we have won this town. Hoorah, 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 yeah. Over the hill with the swords of 1,000 men.
That's a great song, that, isn't it?
Who's that?
Tenpole Tudor, that is.
What?
Tenpole Tudor. Swords of 1,000 Men. Do you remember that?
Sorry, is that the name of the song or the band?
Tenpole Tudor's the name of the band.
Tenpole Tudor?
Yeah.
Is that some sort of fishing expression?
I
Pole
think so.
fishing?
No.
Why is it called Tenpole?
I don't know.
I thought you'd investigate it, find out what
Well,
why...
no, I just played the song. I just recognised it.
And what was the name of the song?
Swords of 1,000 Men.
Swords of 1,000 Men. Is that a battle
sort of
song?
vaguely
Then?
battle type song.
Yeah,
Yeah,
I see.
So because of Alfred the Great.
Oh, I
That's
see.
why.
Right, okay.
You've just got that.
Right, yeah.
Now, you said it was some kind of anniversary, which is why we're doing Alfred the Great. What's it the anniversary of? This is not part of the quiz, by the way.
No.
This is just a casual question. If you don't know the answer, it doesn't matter. But I thought you were going to give us why we were doing Alfred the Great.
It's because...
I thought it was some commemoration or something.
No, it's because I've just announced they're going to try and re-find his burial site again.
Oh, right, okay.
Yes.
Okay, well, Alfred the Great is the subject you've chosen.
Yes.
There will be 10 questions,
Okay.
which have a right and a wrong answer.
Yeah.
It's not multiple choice. If you get one correct, you will hear this sound.
Right.
Oh, my God! Oh, my God!
If
Yes.
you get one wrong, you'll hear this sound.
You great steaming pillock!
Oh, dear, that's a bit harsh,
Well,
isn't
it's
it?
all a bit kind of, savage.
Yeah,
Because
okay.
it was savage in that
Oh,
time.
I see what you mean, okay.
Okay, question number 1. Are you ready?
Yes.
Alfred is one of only 2 English kings named the Great.
Yeah.
Who is the other one?
I've got to be careful how I say this, but it was actually Canute. C-N-U-T.
Indeed.
Thank you.
Oh, my God!
Thank you.
I'll give you that. He was Scandinavian, wasn't he?
He was, yeah.
Right,
Yeah,
question
thank you
number
very
2.
much. Yeah.
What was Alfred's mother's name?
Alfred's mother's name was... I'm trying to remember how to pronounce it. Her name was Osbar.
I'll give you that.
Thank you.
I think I don't know if it's Osbur. It's O-S-B-U-R-H.
Yes, that was Osbar. It was the way it was pronounced. Yes.
Question number 3.
Yes.
A statue of Alfred in Wantage was vandalised on New Year's Eve 2007.
Right.
What happened to it?
I know the statue. I've seen it. Vandalised. I can only... when did you say it was again?
New Year's Eve 2007.
Yeah. New Year's Eve. Could it be that paint was thrown over it.
Incorrect.
No.
It lost part of its right arm and the axe was removed.
That's terrible. That's shocking to desecrate a
And apparently they fixed it, and then somebody came back and took the axe away again.
That's disgraceful.
Question number 4.
Yes.
Who starred as Alfred in the epic 1969 movie Alfred the Great?
Oh, dear me. Alfred the Great. Yeah, I think. Yes.
Why
now,
are you looking
just
down?
sing it all out. I'm looking down. Where do you want me to look? Up? Down? Where do you want me to
I
look?
want you to look at me, as I often say.
I'll look at you. I don't mind.
Go on.
Except you've got a fat, ugly face, and it disturbs my thinking. Now then, see, the questions have now got dodgy.
How have they
the
got
first
dodgy?
2 were historical questions,
Yeah.
which I got absolutely right. Third one was not historical.
how's a question
it
about
was a
his
bit of
mother's-
gossip. The fourth one now is a movie question.
Get on with it.
Movie question.
Get on with
Alfred
it.
the Great.
Stop looking down.
When was the film?
1969.
1969, the film Alfred the Great. That would have been the era of... right, okay. I think it could have been... Thinking aloud, thinking out. Now, it could have been Sean Connery, but it wasn't. I know who it could have been. It could have...
Sure?
Hang on.
You're looking down again.
I'm not looking down. I'm closing my eyes and thinking.
All right.
I'm thinking it could be... Alfred the Great. 1969. Yeah. Stanley Baker.
Incorrect.
No.
David Hemmings.
David Hemmings.
Yeah.
He would have been a great Alfred the Great.
He was a great actor.
Yeah, he's too lily-faced.
Lily-faced?
Yeah.
Okay. Question number 5.
Yes.
Where was a piece of Alfred's pelvic bone discovered in 2014?
2014, pelvic bone. I think that was in... Now, I'm thinking aloud here. It was either somewhere near Southampton or it was Winchester. I'm thinking...
I need a specific place.
I'm thinking it was the Abbey in Winchester.
Incorrect.
No!
It was the museum in Winchester.
What?
It was the museum in Winchester.
The museum is the Abbey.
The museum is not the
No,
Abbey.
it is.
No,
it is. I'm telling you,
no,
it is.
No, you go. Is it
I'm
correct?
telling you, it is.
No, well, I don't care what you're telling me. I've got the answer here, and it's not the Abbey. It's the museum.
The Abbey. The museum is in the Abbey. I'm telling you. I'm not trying to gerrymander this. It's absolutely true.
It wouldn't surprise me if you were. Question number 6.
Oh.
What did Alfred disguise himself as to gain entry to an enemy Viking camp?
Enemy Viking camp. What did he disguise himself as?
Yes.
To get into a Viking enemy camp?
Yes.
I imagine he disguised himself as a Viking. What's your problem?
No.
What's
incorrect. It's a great idea.
That's the most logical thing he disguised himself as.
You're absolutely right. I don't know why he didn't disguise himself as a Viking, but...
So what did he disguise himself as?
He disguised himself as a minstrel with a harp. And he stayed there for several days playing music to them.
Oh, that's rubbish.
It's not rubbish.
That's an anecdote. That's not historical
it's true.
fact.
It's true.
I know the story of Alfred the Great inside out. I've never heard that nonsense.
Well, then you should look more closely.
See, I got the first 2 right.
Yeah.
They were factual. They were factual historical questions, which I got right, and now a load of rubbishy, gerrymandered questions.
Question number 7.
Yeah.
Which disease did Alfred suffer from throughout his life?
There's some debate about this because, of course, there were no doctors around in those days who could examine him. Thinking aloud here, thinking aloud. He had something to do with his intestinitis. I think these days it would have been diagnosed as Crohn's disease.
Correct.
Hey! Woo, 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 woo!
Inflammation of the bowel, otherwise known as.
Yeah, see?
Question
historical
number 8.
fact, yes.
In which county did Alfred burn the cakes?
He burnt the cakes when he fled... from the Viking invasion, and he took shelter in a peasant lady's hut on the Somerset levels. So it was Somerset.
Correct.
Hey! Woo, 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 woo.
That's 4 out of 8.
See? That was
so why have you not said, oh, look, the questions have got easier now? Why have you not said that?
Why
have you not said that?
These are historical fact questions.
Why have you told me that the questions have not got easier?
You
said they started to get harder.
They're historical fact questions. Right,
okay. Question number 9.
Yeah.
Who was Alfred's successor?
Alfred's successor was his son, who took on the title after his father's death, which, by the way, was in 899. King Ethelred.
Incorrect.
No! No, it's not incorrect.
It was Edward the Elder. Afraid. Question number 10.
He was known as King Ethelred.
No, he wasn't.
He was.
No,
he
King
was.
Ethelred was somebody else.
No.
You got it wrong. Edward the Elder. Question number 10. Where is the King Alfred Chair of English Literature?
The King Alfred Chair of English Literature. I think that's at King Alfred Chair of English Literature. That is almost certainly at there's a famous museum it's at Oxford University.
Incorrect.
No!
It is at the University of Liverpool.
It's Liverpool?
Yeah.
What's King Alfred got to do with Liverpool?
Well, you'd have to ask them.
What?
It's at the University of Liverpool.
I knew that, actually.
Did you?
I knew that. I think I've been there.
Your total score is 4 out of 10. Not bad for you.
Well,
not exactly expert.
Considering that most of the questions were gerrymandered, that's brilliant.
No, I don't think most of the questions. I think very, very fair quiz. I would
No
say.
historical fact involved in the last question about the historical, the chair of literature.
Well, the
rubbish.
chair of literature is a very important question.
Yeah, rubbish.
Anyway, 4 out of 10, as per usual. Porky disappoints.
Hang on.
In a subject.
No, I
which he
don't.
professes to
No,
know nothing
you're
about.
not getting away with saying that. I got every historical fact question right.
No, you
did I
didn't.
not?
No,
Yes,
you
I
didn't.
did.
You did not.
Yes, I did.
You didn't get the one right about how he disguised himself. You went.
That's a myth. That's a stupid question.
No, it's not a myth.
Stupid questions about Liverpool University, nothing to do with King Alfred the Great.
You didn't get it. Where is Alfred? Where his bone was found? You didn't get.
I did.
No, you didn't.
I said Winchester, and I said.
I said I need a specific place.
And I said the Winchester Abbey.
Why don't you just stop moaning and and do a bit more research?
The museum is at the Winchester. I got Winchester right, and you should not have denied me that one.
No, well,
I'm claiming 5 out of 10 at least.
Well, you can claim whatever you like.
Yeah.
I mean, you just pretend that you got all sorts of things, and then just tell everybody else that you got 5 out of 10.
Well, our millions of listeners will be our judges.
I'm sure that they will. How about this from D? Shameless Porky, the total cad.
Yeah, that's you. That's you.
No.
It's you.
Shameless Porky, the total cad.
Cad, and what's that in relevance to?
It's in relevance to you being shameless.
No.
That's what it's in relevance to.
I will not accept it.
I know you won't. 4 out of 10. We'll find out what quiz material we're going to have for next week. Next week.
Boo.
This is TalkSport.
The Two Mics, simulcast across the UK on Talk Sport and Talk Radio.
Where is my mind? Where is my mind? Where is my mind?
This is TalkSport. We are the Two Mics. There will be a podcast coming out a little bit later on. I got a text here from somebody who doesn't give a name. Sorry, Porky, Winchester Abbey and the museum are half a mile apart.
No, they're not. They're on the same grounds.
Simon in Sheffield says 10-pole Tudor was Ed Tudor Pole, who went on to present the Crystal Maze.
Oh, really?
How about that?
Crystal Maze.
You know that TV show?
Yeah.
The Crystal Maze.
What was that about?
The bald guy. What do you mean what it was about?
What was it about?
Well, it was a sort of a challenge. It was a show where people would take various challenges to try and get themselves through a maze.
Oh, I see.
With a prize at the end. Graham in Bath says, Porky has to be admired as he does have an extremely knowledgeable range of general knowledge.
Thank you.
The Lord loves a trier, and Porky is very trying.
Thank you. Thank you.
Tim the Trucker, Porky claims he got every historical question right,
yes,
but didn't know who succeeded Alfred.
I did.
Well, you didn't.
Ethelred the Ready.
No, but that wasn't. It was the wrong answer.
Yeah, but he was also known as whatever I said he was.
No, he wasn't.
Yeah, he was.
No, he was completely different. Unfortunately.
So. It was his son, anyway.
Well, it doesn't matter who he was. You got his name wrong.
Yeah, no, I didn't. No.
Now, here's one from Matt. He says, it probably goes against advertising rules, but I think Mike Parry should name some of his so-called scientific journals.
Why?
I don't know.
Well, I mean,
he doesn't believe you've got it.
No. Of course I have. Don't be silly. I'm renowned for having them.
4 out of 10, not too bad, says Steve.
Yes.
And Dave says, as on Brain of Britain, can we have a listener's question on the quiz every week? Hashtag bird brain.
Well, no, you couldn't.
Well, that starts to get complicated.
It does. It starts.
Problem with, I mean, I have to have the quiz masters independent completely of the show, and they have to put the questions together because otherwise I get accused of somehow making the quiz more difficult. And because I don't have anything to do with the questions, it's best if they're all put together by somebody else. Because I have to know that whatever the answer they're giving me is correct.
Yes.
Yeah. Becky says, Porky proves he is great by Alfred disguised himself as a Viking to get in the Viking camp.
Yes.
History is his best subject.
Yeah.
4 out of 10.
Yeah, but I mean, the logic is that if you want to get into... I mean, for instance, if I was, trying to find out what Liverpool's plans were in the next game that they play against Everton, to get into their training ground, I would disguise myself...
Viking.
No, as a Liverpool player.
Yes.
You idiot,
Oh,
right? But you wouldn't go along as a singing minstrel, would you? And go in and start singing "Green Sleeves was my heart of gold."
Apparently you would.
Well,
it worked because he stayed in there for 3 days.
I don't believe that. That is an apocryphal story. That
I don't believe so.
Nowhere in all the times that I've studied the historical chronicles of the English kings have I ever heard such a stupid story.
Well, I don't know
stupid story.
I don't know how much time you spent studying the history of English kings, but if you had done, you would have got the question right about who succeeded him. Surely.
Well, I just gave a name which is a common name to the people who know these things, but not common to those who dip in and out like you.
Yeah, all right.
Simple as that, pal.
Now, I've been sent this by Becky, actually, but it's an AP story. The Rolling Stones have now arrived in Cuba's capital, Havana, on the eve of their historic free concert.
Yeah,
in a place where their music was once silenced.
Is it just coincidence that President Barack Obama goes there 3-4 days ago, and the Rolling Stones pitch up 3 days afterwards?
No, not at all a coincidence, because in fact their arrival is kind of to mark his visit. So I mean, it's all part of it. I think. I think it was all kind of negotiated around about the same time.
I think you're right.
But it's not bad. I'd love to be there for that.
Yeah, I'd just love to go to Cuba before it becomes modern again, if you see what I mean. So, because all the people I've spoken to who've been to Cuba say it's a time warp. You're walking around in 1950s.
Well, you must have seen some of the footage from this week.
Oh, yeah.
Or were you too busy with all your paperwork?
No. I saw some of the footage, and you're absolutely right. It is like going back into like a 1950s type scenario. But I'd like to be there and experience it.
Did you see that tango that he did, old Barack, with the what you might call a comely wench from Cuba?
I have been to a live tango show in Buenos Aires, one of the top tango bars.
Right.
And I'm telling you, it is a scintillating experience. The girls are so sexy.
Yeah.
I'm not joking. They drive you mad with lust. The way their limbs, their legs, the way they have to flick them out and flick them behind them and all that kind of stuff. It's mesmeric.
Well, it's a fantastic dance.
It's
anyway,
mesmeric, honestly, to see the way they move. Just absolutely... dizzy. It dizzied me because it was so impressive.
Didn't make you want to join in and try and find somebody to teach you.
Well, you have to be very lithe to do that, but it was a terrific experience, and I'd love to see another one of those again.
Yeah,
Buenos Aires is a fantastic.
I'm told
city
it is. You see, I've never been to anywhere in South America.
Yeah, I have.
Much to my chagrin. I'd love to have gone.
No, I found it absolutely. I went there. I've been to Santiago in Chile, another very, very impressive city.
Yes.
And in very impressive country, Chile. The people who live there and all that kind of stuff. Brazil.
And what were you doing down there?
Uruguay. I was just in... I went to...
You're on a freebie?
No. Went to Argentina because we got on the first British Airways plane to fly into Buenos Aires.
So it was a free trip?
No, it was a work trip. It was following the Falklands War. And,
but it was a free trip in the sense that you were working. It wasn't a holiday.
Well, what do you mean a free trip? I mean,
Well,
when
you didn't pay. All right, let me make it clear. Did you pay for it?
When you were doing covering
pay for it?
The Bosnian War, did you pay for your own airfares to get there to cover a story?
No,
for
they paid for me.
Exactly.
Yeah, so it was it was a free trip.
I was sent by the Daily Express to go on the first flight into Buenos Aires.
When I was going to a war zone, you were probably in first class drinking champagne.
Well, I was, but it was a very dangerous mission.
Why was it dangerous?
Well, because we didn't know what sort of reception we were going to get from the Argentinian people when we got there. Bearing in mind...
British Airways had decided to fly into Buenos Aires and they thought they might get shot at. Is that right?
Exactly.
Don't be ridiculous.
I'm not talking about the airplane getting shot at. I'm talking about the people when we landed on the ground.
Well, I hardly think that British Airways would be doing business in Argentina if they thought it was hazardous.
Well, you had to restart business at some stage. You didn't know how the people were going to react.
And how did they react then? Sounds like it was very dangerous if you were sitting around watching tango dancing in bars.
No, they took to me very quickly because I was diplomatic about it all. In fact, at one stage...
Did you learn any Argentinian?
I learnt the word Malvinas, which helped on a couple of occasions.
Malvinas
is the Argentinian word for the Falkland Islands.
Did you not learn that during the Falklands War?
Well, I suppose I did, yeah, but I thought...
Where were you during the Falklands War, anyway?
I was in Fleet Street.
Doing what?
Covering the war from Fleet Street.
Fleet Street?
Yeah.
Why didn't they send you?
Because I'd only just arrived in London from Manchester.
Too junior.
No, I wasn't too junior. It's just that I hadn't been there long enough, and Bob McGowan got the shout above me to go to the Falklands War on the the big commercial ship. What was it called? The Cunard liner that was commandeered by the Royal Navy. No. It was the. I'll remember it in a minute. But what was interesting was when you say did you cover it from the war? For instance, on the night that the Sheffield went down. I was then sent down to the West Country to try and find the wife.
Yeah, so you had to find the widow, didn't you?
The widow, that's right, of the Sheffield skipper. It took me 3 days. I eventually found her, and it was a terrific story. You know, it was just amazing. The whole thing was. We had a proper Royal Navy then, so when we lost the Sheffield, we had another 12 ships to cover for it.
Somebody actually sent me a little video of some helicopters flying over Portsmouth this week.
Really?
Which was the final flight of some naval helicopters, which are now no longer going to be used.
They were the Sea Kings.
The Sea Kings, yeah.
Which were
so
used
they're not
for
using them
search
anymore.
and rescue, not using them anymore.
What are they doing with those then?
Well, they're being decommissioned and they...
Well, they sell them off.
Well, I don't know. I don't know whether they scrap them or sell them off or whatever they do.
Yeah.
Whether they've been decommissioned from the Royal Navy and they use different helicopters now, which I don't think they're even owned by the Royal Navy anymore. I think they're sort of, like subcontracted and all that kind of stuff.
Shocking.
Yeah, it's shocking.
Shocking.
It's shocking, absolutely shocking.
Anyway, we'll maybe talk about that next week because we're nearly out of time.
Yes.
It's nearly the end of the week.
Yes.
It's Good Friday, of course. This is Talk Sport. This is Talk Sport. We are the Two Mics. There will be a podcast coming out, and of course, Easter weekend is one of the busiest travel weekends. And funnily enough, Catch Your Own Train, a very apt song there, because I'm going to give you a couple of breakdowns of precisely what's going on for those people who are trying to get around this weekend.
Right.
There will be no service Liverpool Street and Shenfield on Sunday and Monday due to planned engineering works. Right. Apparently, trying to get to Gatwick from Monday, between Friday and Monday, the trains will be running from London Bridge instead of Victoria.
Shocking.
No service on the Gatwick Express from Good Friday up to and including Easter Monday.
Yes.
Right, so you can't do... passengers with Heathrow Connect and Heathrow Express will be running fewer trains.
Yes.
The Piccadilly line, as you know, was on strike all day yesterday.
Disgraceful.
For no apparent reason.
Disgraceful.
Between Good Friday and Easter Monday, London Bridge Station will be closed to South Eastern services.
Well, that's very helpful,
No
isn't it?
trains serving London Cannon Street, Deptford, Greenwich, Maze Hill, etc. This is all around London. I apologise to anybody who's outside of London listening to this. Spectators wishing to travel to watch Sunday's boat race. I didn't know the boat race was on Sunday.
No, I didn't. I thought it was on Saturday.
Have been advised to allow extra time for journeys and take rail replacement buses between Clapham Common and Barnes. Can you imagine that?
Yeah.
Trying to get to the boat race without a train.
Good God.
Absolutely horrendous, right?
Horrendous.
Chiltern Railways, no trains running between Marylebone and Amersham. You know, just the list goes on.
This goes on and on.
Tube lines are going to be closed.
Yeah.
You know, replacement buses in service all over the road. It says no planned closures to roads in the capital. However, roads are expected to be busy on Sunday, so if you're going to be coming into work, just beware that the boat race is on.
And a lot of people queue up at the side of the river to watch the boat race, don't they?
Will you be watching it after your...
No.
Your Clash of the Titans thing, aren't you?
That's on Sunday, between 1 and 4. What time's the boat race?
Well, it's around then, isn't it?
I don't know. Is it?
It's usually around about midday, 1 o'clock.
It is, yeah.
I think. I mean, it doesn't go on for very long.
No, it's a great institution, the boat race. It's not really a sporting event, in my view, but it's a great institution.
Why do you like it? Because you're a snob?
No, well, several
not exactly man of the people sport, is it?
Well, yes, but a lot of people who've rowed in the boat race over the years have come from my school, the King's School, Chester.
What, can you name one of them?
Yes, Ian Bolshaw.
Ian Bolshaw?
Yeah.
When did he win it?
About the year after I left, so that was about... when was that?
When you left school?
No, when I left school, yeah.
Well, that's ages ago.
Yeah, exactly, yeah.
Well, so one person... From the 1960s?
No. There's been a dozen since then. It's just that I don't know the names of the individuals.
Well, how do you know they went to Chester, King's School Chester?
Because I keep in touch through the King's School Chester Old Boys Association.
Oh, yeah.
And I get, regular, a half-yearly newsletter from them.
Oh,
and
right.
I always take note of those who are rowing in the boat race.
Oh, OK.
And old Ian Bolshaw was in the year... above me.
Ian Bolshaw was a rugby union player. Is that the same one?
No. He was a rower.
Oh.
In fact, no, he must have been the year below me. That's right, because the year after I left, he rowed in the boat race.
No, there's no mention of him here.
Oh well, he did. I know for sure.
Funnily enough, we haven't got time to do this. We'll have to do it next week because I got a tweet from somebody who sent me, or maybe it was a Facebook message. I can't remember. But apparently, Bexhill RAF Club has been voted the best club in East Sussex.
What do you mean, club?
club, you know, like a sort of club, like a Legion club, British Legion.
Well, like a
club.
drinking club.
Well, I don't know, but the guy who sent it to me said we should discuss it because you might like to go there and try it out. But apparently it's the best club in East Sussex.
I don't know what that means. I mean, it's a flying club.
Well, it's the RAF.
Well, you can't
Royal
get
Air Force.
bladderated if you park your Spitfire outside the
British Legion.
the mess or
something. We can't talk
something.
about it anymore because we're all done.
Look at the light!
Don't forget to follow the Two Mics at the Two Mics on Twitter and on YouTube. Just look for Two Mics TV.
Well, I'm not interested in an Easter tree, okay?
Well, don't have one then.
No, I won't have one.
Well, why do you want to attack other people if they want to have one?
Because I do not want the culture in which I live in to be suddenly corrupted by Easter trees, okay?
Really?
I don't give a damn about an Easter tree.
Well, Christmas tree's not particularly
If I see an Easter tree and I had an axe, I'd chop it down.
That's not very Christian of you.
No, I'm a better broadcaster than Laurence Olivier was an actor. I can tell you that for nothing.
Really?
Yes.
If you love the Two Mics podcast, you'll love the live show. Weekday overnights from 1 a.m. on DAB Digital Radio and 1089 and 1053 AM and via the TalkSport app. TalkSport, your Premier League station with exclusive commentaries every weekend.
What an absolute corker!
TalkSport.
People in New Zealand do a lot of fishing because there's a lot of fish around, aren't there?
You great steaming pillock!